Hey, Andy, I'm on twice, so I can share my computer if I need to.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just admitting people as fast as they show up here. Looks like that's the first rush anyway.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Hi, Mayor. Andy here. I'm a hold up.
Melissa, Joanne, Deborah, Jonathan. I had no council people yet. All right. Melissa, did your office get any masks for me?
Get any what?
Masks.
Masks?
We have masks.
Yeah, but the
Peace
ones,
Kill masks?
the peace kill ones.
No.
Okay. All right. Because I had a pack up here. You got 3 people in your department, right?
Yes.
All right. I have a pack up here. I couldn't figure out who it was for.
They say City of Peekskill on them?
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, all right.
I ordered a whole bunch of them.
Oh, nice.
I gave me a really good deal on them. So I ordered a whole bunch of them. And I
Great.
tried to deliver them all yesterday, and I had another pack, and I couldn't figure out which department it was.
That would
Now
be
that I'm looking at you, I'm like, I think I know who it was.
Was that your
Anything.
signature, Mayor? I thought it was Andy's.
Huh?
Was that your signature? I got mine today, and there was a signature, so I thought it was Andy's. So I guess it was
Oh, no.
yours.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
it
thank
was
you.
fine. Yeah.
Thank
Both
you.
our names. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I dropped them off everywhere yesterday, and I had a pack of 3, and I'm like, did I forget something somewhere? I just thought-
They look good.
They are pretty cool, though, right?
Yeah, they are.
I've had people asking for them. When I wear mine, they want one.
Can somebody model it for me tonight?
I think
Actually,
Andy, do you have
hold on.
yours?
yeah, I got it. It's in
I
my
want to see it.
pocket. I
You got it, Andy? Okay, good. 'Cause I'm chewing.
need to throw,
Oh, cool.
It looks good.
I need to throw it in the laundry.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and they're real comfortable around the ears too. Like you can tighten the
Oh,
strap, loosen the strap.
oh, that's
Little-
perfect.
This little tighteny thing, you can move it.
Nice. Oh, great. I'm excited.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Plus, it's totally reusable too. Mask. Styles. Here we go. Vanessa's just showing up. Here we go. Admit. Everybody get their coffee? I'm gonna need it.
I hope you're kidding, right? You're kidding, right?
Unless we all gotta be finished for the shit show later tonight, the political debate.
Yeah. Right.
I think it'll be better.
We-
It'll be
yeah,
better than
we-
the other one.
A lot better.
Let's stay on point and move it along tonight. No big COW discussion. Let's just keep it moving. I got my
That
teacher
must be
voice.
Council. You can always tell when Council Riley comes in the building.
That's right. How's it going there, Mayor?
Very well. How you doing?
Oh, just dandy, thanks.
So we have Councilwoman Riley on. She's 0125. And Councilperson Agudelo is on. So we're just waiting for the rest of our council.
Now here comes Kathy.
All right, there we go. Price is right. Good evening, Kathy.
Long time no see.
Very much, very much. So we now have 4 council members on. Just waiting for 2 to 3 more.
Let's not wait too long. Sorry. We had three hours of interviews this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We just get a quorum. Let's just rock and roll this thing.
Hey, I'm all for that.
We don't want to do
3 hours, Kathy? Oh, that must have been fun. I should have joined.
Oh, hey, you can't have enough fun, but it's nice to have the opportunity to have so much fun. It really is. But seriously, folks, I'm not kidding about that.
Yeah. Kathy, before you got on, I said the same thing. We got to keep it
Exact same
moving.
thing.
No COW discussions.
I mean, everybody knows what time this thing is supposed to start, right?
I assume so.
I'm just
We need one more
saying.
person.
Hold on, I
Assume
got
one more person signs on.
to let Jean in. Here she is. Here we go.
Just need one more council person. We'll be good.
What about Joanna? I don't see her on yet. Oh, there she is. Okay.
Go on.
All right.
Joanna's there, Melissa's there, Jean's there now, and Melissa twice. Jonathan is there.
Here comes the deputy mayor.
Beauty. All right, we can get started when she's on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And just I'll send a text to Ramon. You want to just send a text to Dwight?
I'm here. It's Vivian.
I will.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad.
It was hard trying to figure out which meeting because I opened up last night's meeting.
I did the same.
Okay.
I was wondering where everybody was.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Oh, okay. So all right, send out a notice. When I put the excuse me. Okay, so we'll begin. And if, or I should say, when Ramon and Dwight comes on, we'll just let them say they're in a public or private location.
Yeah,
That's
whatever.
fair.
Why do we have to say that again?
Because
What's the point of that?
the open meetings law is suspended right now. And the only way the city council can do business under the emergency declaration is remotely. But if you're in a public location, then you're basically have to invite everybody else in with you.
That's right. If any one member is in a public location, that is open to the public.
Right.
Okay,
295
I guess.
is Dwight.
Get that. But
we're either all remote or
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Let's just get a mic check. Councilperson Agadella, just give us a mic check real quick, please.
Hey everyone.
All right, good. All right, so we are on, and we are ready to go. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this virtual committee of the whole meeting, special meeting for budget discussions. Today is October 7th, 2020. We have about 6 presentations this evening from different departments. So I'm going to try to let this go right into flow so we don't have any delay. I'm just going to ask the council that are on the line, please just state your name, and if you're in a private or public location, I will go first, and we'll start with Councilwoman Riley. As the other council members join us this evening, I'll ask them to do the same. Right after the council and myself goes, I'm going to pass it over to our city manager, Andy Stewart. He will do the same thing and ask the staff and any guests that are on the line to do the same. All right. Andre Rainey, I'm currently in a private location. Councilwoman Riley.
Patricia Riley, I am in a private location.
I don't believe Councilman Fernandez has gotten on yet, so we'll go right to our Deputy Mayor McKenzie.
Vivian McKenzie, private location.
All right, I see Councilman Douglas has joined us. Councilman Douglas.
Councilman Douglas in a private location.
Awesome. Councilperson Agudelo.
Vanessa Gudelo, private location.
All right, and last but not least, Councilwoman Talbot.
Kathy Talbot, private location.
All right, thank you, Council. All right, City Manager Andy, it's on you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. So with us tonight for staff, I'll just say your name and title and just say you're in a private location. Melissa Ferraro, Corporate Counsel.
Good evening, everyone. I'm in a private location.
Ann Scaglione, Comptroller.
Private location.
I don't think Chief Palmy's on yet. The police department is being done later, so he'll get here. Jonathan Zamora, Nutrition Department.
Good evening, all. I'm in a private location.
Deborah Petrosky, your City Clerk.
Hello, everybody. I'm in a private location.
Gene Friedman, Planning Commissioner. Gene, your audio needs to be turned up or unmuted.
I have my papers on top of the microphone.
There we go.
Sorry. I'm in a private location.
Doing an audio check. Joanna Duncan, Human Resources.
Good evening, everyone. I'm in a private location.
Thank you. I think that's all the staff with us right now. Chief Palmy will be along a little later.
Okay, great. So we'll get right into it. So Andy, if you want to do an introduction as you did before, so people know what's going on, that'd be great. And we'll start off with our clerk.
The City Council worked hard last night and heard presentations from 4 departments. And we have tonight another 6 departments. And then next week, there's a lineup of 4 more. Section 8, the Assessor, Youth Bureau, and the Fire Department. And then we have another budget meeting planned, which is outside the usual schedule of council meetings. They've all been noticed. They've all been publicized. And the last one will be for any remaining issues for discussion. I wanted to remind the audience tonight that the tentative budget is submitted to the clerk, is available to view, hard copy of the library, and it's on the city website. The audience can, in years past, we didn't have visuals like we do now with screen sharing under the Zoom application. But when they go out over television, because of the cable company's lack of high definition, the visibility on small numbers is poor. We apologize for that. It's not something the city could control. Mike Miner does a great job. We're taping this meeting on Zoom, and we'll make it available for people to see later if they want to go back over it. And again, paper documents are available. And I think we just had someone who might be trying to pipe in, and I got to figure out how to get them admit. Okay, here comes Councilman Fernandez.
Councilman Fernandez, if you're there, can you see him? I don't
He,
see the whole screen yet.
Councilman Fernandez should have audio.
All right, it just state your name and if you're in a public or private location. Councilman Fernandez.
Yeah, he may not be able to hear it quite yet.
He's still connected to his audio. He's still connected.
While he gets his audio, sorted out. I also wanted to say that last night we went over a couple of broader issues: the capital plan, the debt schedule, and the fund balance. So tonight, I think we'll stick to the departments in the presentations. The department heads have spent a huge amount of time, and we don't have a lot of time. So there's some detail they need to provide, and any questions and answers. And the comptroller, of course, is available for she'll be screen sharing and navigating the numbers for the city council. So having said that, our first department presenting tonight is the clerk's office, the city clerk's office. Deborah, you're up. And oh, I should say that our goal is about no more than 30 minutes. If we can go a little faster on the small departments, that's great. The police department being larger, we scheduled for an hour. But I'll try to do reminders as to when we're hitting the time limit. Thanks. Deborah, are you ready to go?
Just real
Well,
quick.
I think, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Deborah, I apologize. Just Councilman Fernandez, he should be on now. Just announce if you're in the public or private location.
Yeah, Councilman Fernandez and I am private location.
Thank you. Sorry, Deb, go ahead.
It's okay. So I've never done this before, so I don't really know if you want me to read everything out loud that's up on the screen, or if you've already reviewed it. Just tell me what you want me to do.
Deb, I think essentially, if you look at your budget narrative, which the council has, if you just summarize the main points from that in terms of department operations, the cost savings that you're able to achieve, and then we'll move. And I know we'll probably spend some time talking about parking revenues tonight from the commuter lots. Just as a reminder, Deborah's budget, she covers the parking from the commuter lots, but Ann will provide backup information in general.
Okay, so as it says, the city clerk's office is a very busy office, and we have been very busy even since we've been doors locked. We've been taking on so many people, many marriages licensed, many notaries, just taking anybody who walks in, and we are scheduling appointments. We're just very, very busy. Our primary goal, and I have a very good team right now. We're all working so very well together. We just want to make the office run a lot more smoothly. We're sharing a lot of the duties. There's no one person that has any one thing. We're all doing everything that we possibly can to make sure that all of the work is being done. The savings that we have, of course, is not filling the position of the late Rose Alzabon. Again, we're all pitching in. We're doing as much as we can together. The reason I'm not asking that to be filled at this time is, one, I know there's a hiring freeze, but two, we're just trying to respect that the city is in a deficit from the COVID. So we're going to try to, we are doing it. We're doing it without Rose, and we're okay. We're doing it. Also, the drops in salary from Pam's salary to my salary, there's a savings there as well. So the impact of that is just that we are all very busy. We're doing a lot of work. All of us are doing a lot of work. So the changes in personnel costs and related expenses is just that the savings of the salary difference between Pam's retirement and not filling that position. The capital expenditure that's on there for over $5,000. I asked for a new desk, but it's not that serious. Carlos has bought me new handles for my desk and fixed the drawer that would not stay closed. So we have pretty much pinned that down. Recommendations to streamline the process. The only problem that I have at this point in time is that everybody comes to my office for everything, and there's a lot of things that we can't answer. We're trying to help as many people as they can because some departments are part-time. My office has been open full-time and fully staffed since Andy decided to do that in June 29th. So we've all been to work every single day, all day long, and we're taking on a lot of people. And we're trying really hard to help other departments, but there's just some things that we're not very knowledgeable on, but we are learning. shared services, that's kind of a bone of contention with me today. I was thrown a curveball by the police chief's secretary that now all of police monies will be coming through the clerk's office, and I wasn't made aware of that prior to today, and I had things thrown at me today that I didn't even know were coming. So I guess that's somebody else's opportunity of shared services. So that needs to be a discussion down the road. I don't have any software applications or anything that I want to purchase. I think we're pretty good with all of that. So getting into the revenue side, I don't know if anybody has any questions. I revamped the parking today due to what we've sold. Basically, I've never done a budget before, so people said just follow what Pam did last year. So that's basically what I did. But I realized with the COVID, we did lose a lot of revenue in the parking. Some things are on the uptake, some things are on the lower take. So if you want specific numbers on any of that, I am ready to go. Or any questions? Anybody?
Well, why don't we just, Deb, this is Anne.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is we're looking right now at all of the city clerk revenues. Why don't we talk about the bigger items just for a minute, just to start the discussion. So if you look in the middle of the page, the parking permits, Water Street.
Yes.
You know, that's a big one that so far, actual year to date, we're only at $64,000. We had a budget of 110. Next year's budget, we're saying is going to be lower than the current year adopted. So if you wanted to talk about that one, and maybe also about the parking permits James Street ramp.
Right. We did lose a lot of revenue on the James Street ramp due to the Hudson Valley Healthcare Center. They used to purchase 40 visitor permits, and they no longer are doing that. They're just making the visitors, you know, pay the meters or whatever. So we lost a lot of revenue on that side. As far as the Water Street, we are down significantly there. I have my figure at right now 69,000, and there's a lot, you know, the annuals, like I can't say enough, they're never going to give up their annual permits. We have that discussion every day with somebody. They're trying to renew now for next year. So everybody is ready to rock and roll on that. The Water Street monthlies and the quarterlies down there, they are significantly lower. People are not going into the city and working. They're all working from home. So at this point in time, what I figured out today is as of today, we're at 69,000 for the Water Street. So that is a huge drop. The other one that was a huge drop was South Street, because Water Street is available. They don't have to go to South Street. So South Street is currently at 3,500. Let me see the other one. The other significant one was Brown Street, and Brown Street was due to the Hudson Valley Healthcare Center being down significantly and more being available in the James Street garage. Let's see, the other one that was down significantly is the miscellaneous other lots. That's Barham House, Connolly's, and M&T. Right now, we're currently at 7,700. And those look like the bigger drops, and that's what's going on with that.
So this is Deputy Mayor. So Councilman Douglas yesterday, I'm assuming, was referring to this in the revenues and maybe thinking that maybe we may not meet what's out there for 21, and perhaps we should kind of change these. Is that where you were going, Donnie?
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. That's my point. I thought, and I think what Deb is doing is trying to take the preliminary budget and maybe be a little bit less optimistic and more, you know, just using kind of the best ballpark we can, and say maybe we're only going to get half of the permits for the Metro North in total, something in that range instead of a higher number. And I just think it's safer to assume, because I just got the county meeting two nights ago, and Metro North ridership is down 80%. So if we, by next year, it creeps up to more like 50%. That affects the parking permits that we would have, and maybe that's a better number to use. It's a guess, but a better number to use than what was plugged in the preliminary budget.
Right, even at Nelson Avenue, I mean, currently we're at almost 30,000 and we're budgeting 70 for next year. We're thinking this last quarter is going to bring us another 20 grand from Nelson Avenue.
Let me see Nelson Avenue. Nelson Avenue, we're actually right now at 74,000. And
what's 1, 2, 3 down that shows 2020 actual 29.5?
Yeah, I don't know where that figure came from, but I can tell you that the girls and I, we took a day to go over to Nelson Avenue C, and we wrote down everybody's license plates. We were checking out a lot of things over there, and we found that there was a lot of people over there that were parking for free because we went back to the office. We removed signs and we did a lot of work with that. And as such, people have been coming in and paying their back fines. So
that number is not correct.
Looking at, just so you know, is I printed this report on Friday, October 2nd. So this was everything that was received from the clerk's office at that given point in time. So it's the last few days. So, but we could, I could have my staff work with you, Deb, just to make sure that everything is being posted in the correct account.
Well, I'm going off of that stupid passport program, you know, as to what we sold and what we have available and how much things are going on. So that's what I worked on all morning. I went through all of the programs that they could possibly print out for me, and I added up all the revenue according to that program. Of course, we all know that program has plenty of glitches in it right now. So,
so maybe if you guys could just, if Ann and you could just compare numbers and make sure we have the right numbers before we make any changes, that would be helpful.
Okay,
Yes,
no, not a problem.
work on that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
What was
I agree. I agree.
That one is a big change, and that's maybe, I mean, that one doesn't affect the Metro North transportation in Nelson Garage.
No, not at all. No, that's a lot of seniors.
Yeah, that had to be internal and people who work in the area, who go to the library, who go to different kind of the place to work over here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really big change. That we have only the number for, oh no, I see the number for 2018. So 2018 it was like a 97.
Correct.
2019, 70,000, and the budget for this year was 90,000, and we are in 29,000 only now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So by our next meeting on Wednesday, I could have an update to these numbers just to make sure that they are up to date.
Perfect.
And Deb, thanks for going out and actually checking to see what was happening. That's above and beyond the clerk's role sometimes, I think, but it's just a wonderful way to actually check on what's going on. So I think with you and Ann working on it, we'll come up with the correct tentative budget, estimated budget, I guess, for the parking. But it definitely needed to be focused on.
Yeah, and we also found 3 forged permits. So,
and something that you mentioned in the meeting, in the council meeting that we're talking about, that looks like the Metro North area is not really affected a lot, like the Nelson Garage is showing.
No, because all the parking areas down at the train station are annual, and people just will not give them up. They may not be using them on a daily basis, but they fight to keep those spots. So they'd rather pay than lose that spot. And we got a couple calls this week alone saying, well, I'm starting back in January, but I don't want to lose my spot. So they're ready to pay, you know, again for next year. So, I mean, that's what we have. And right now they're all at full capacity and everybody has paid.
What do you use in the calendar year for that year permit?
For this
mean,
year,
the-
but not yet next year, because they all expire in December, because they're good
Yeah,
from
that's what I
January to
say.
December.
Yeah,
Yeah,
January to December. Okay.
correct, yep.
So we don't gonna know until December.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay. I
In
think
Jane
Debbie-
Street garage, you don't see the same.
James
Well,
Street
yeah,
took a big
it's,
hit,
it's,
yeah.
it's dropped a lot too.
Yes, James Street did drop a lot.
I assume that because really the lockdown, it was really big impact in the city from I am soon like April, May, and June, and probably July. So and I
Right.
don't know the reality and how many employees and how many people they come back to work full time in every area. I don't think so that we have the full time person in all the office and everywhere. So
Yeah, and the other thing was they knew that there was no real enforcement out there in like April, May, June, and even July. So they didn't even bother paying. They just kept parking there and not even paying.
yeah, but I have to be honest. I don't see too many car parking over there in that time.
Oh
So
yeah, definitely
it
not.
was
Yeah.
it was like their place. Just remember that even the supermarket was closed for 1 month. So
Yes, the supermarket, DMV, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, so if you want to go to the expenses, Deb already highlighted, Deb already highlighted the big changes. Actually, I'm sorry.
I do have a little bit of a problem on the sheet that you sent me.
Okay.
In the office assistant position.
Yes.
I'm hoping that's a typo.
That is a typo. That is a
I
typo,
thought-
so that will have
yeah.
to be corrected.
Okay.
You are correct.
And
I will
not
make
that I care, but she's actually the permit clerk. She's not the office assistant, so she kind of had a little
Okay, well,
problem with that. But I knew it was a typo. She kind of got in panic mode, and I said, it's just a typo. I'm sure it'll be fixed. It's fine.
okay, it is a typo, so I will update this and make sure that I send out a revised copy to you and to the council.
Okay, thank you.
Is that
Does
it?
anyone have any questions? I don't know. I'm asking if anybody has any questions.
I thought Ann was going to talk about the expenses. That's why.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was just writing down. So the biggest change that you see here is from the original budget to the 2021 tentative. Like Deb already said, we had a reduction in staff when we have a new city clerk in, and there is one position that's not being filled. So there's definitely a decrease in expense there. And that accounts for the total budget going from a current year adopted of 386,000 to 245,000. So it is a significant drop. And, luckily so far, Deb is saying that her staff is able to handle the work as it is. The next cost center that's under Deb is the elections. So we do pay the county for our portion of the election expense. So this budget is projected to be the same as the current year. So that is the city clerk. So we will look over the revenues like we said, and I'll make sure that I get you a corrected copy with the typo in the one salary.
Okay.
Just one question about the election, Ann. I
Sure.
remember the last year I did a question about it was not supposed to be changed because the early voting days that was a new for the next last year.
Right.
That was not supposed to do any change, and still like that.
We have not been notified of any change. So
Okay.
at this point, we're not projecting any difference.
No, sounds good. Mostly now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So the next department that we have,
Oh, wait.
Sorry.
Just to backtrack a little bit, nobody has mentioned the fact that I did request an increase on my salary. I don't even know what to say about this because, again, since Pam has left and I took over, people have come to me for different things and asked if I would take on new duties. And so far I've said yes to everything. The police thing was a little bit of a shock to me today, taking on taxi cab fees and now animal control fees. And I'm a little concerned about being responsible for other people's money, but I mean, we have it worked out to where we do planning, and now I took on DPW's money, and now I'm going to be taking on police money. And
Can I just
so,
ask, and not to interrupt with that, but can we put that out for discussion to find out why that is and who used to do it, Andy? And why this is all becoming a clerk's job?
That was, I mean, first of all, I want to say Deb has done a great job, and she's always somebody who steps in, and what she says is true, in terms of her approach. The moving of the police fees over wasn't something that I reviewed, and so I view that as an outstanding issue. And you know, as a general rule, you know, handling cash is a specialist thing, and the more it's consolidated in one department, the better. But it adds work, and so I think you're right, Deputy Mayor, and what the clerk is saying needs to be reflected on. I mean, it's there's definitely more work coming to the clerk's office than perhaps was anticipated.
Yeah, but I would just say that if something like that, and that seems to be a big duty, for something not to be happening like that, if the city manager, if it's come through your office, how does that happen? That's what I'm trying to get addressed.
I would agree to that, by the way.
Yeah,
That just doesn't happen.
absolutely review that.
It sounds like dumping on the new girl.
There you go.
but in all honesty, I don't mind. I agree with the fact that it should be consolidated, but it's just adding more responsibilities and more work in my department. And
that's fine, but we're just talking about process. There needs to be a process of how way things are done. Whether you wind up doing it, that's fine, but there's a process.
No, I thank you for that. I thank you for that, because I was kind of shell-shocked because it was brought over to me today with a fee schedule. And I was like, wait, what? and we have a lot of changes to, you know, to accommodate that. So, and I'm willing to do it, but again, it's, you know, it's whatever, and I'll work it out. It's fine. But that's one of the reasons that I'm asking for an increase in my salary. And I thank you for any consideration.
One of
Thanks, Deborah. Yeah, this is something we need to discuss. I agree with that. But thank you, Deborah, for all your work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Andy, you're going to say something?
I was going to say, you know, one thing, it's really important for the city council to hear directly from department heads. And I don't want to sort of interrupt that. I do want to say one of the things that's been going on, it's with the COVID, is we've been able to get some staff over, and we'll have Jonathan in shortly from nutrition, because the senior and the nutrition program hasn't been doing some of the services they usually do. And so we've had one individual come in and fill in a bit. You know, there's never enough staff. The city is understaffed. and we're holding vacancies, and we haven't charted raises, and that's kind of the boat we're in right now. And so one of the things that we try to do is share staff and move people when we have an opportunity to do that. So we did get a sufferance agreement from the union to be able to move one individual over to work part-time out of the clerk's office, which I know is helpful. But we've also had to move people into the front door greeter position as well. And you know, as the clerk points out, there's just a lot of traffic through that door to the clerk's office. Section 8 has provided staff for that. The nutrition program has provided staff for that. So just part of the story.
Andy, could I just say one thing?
Please.
So I apologize, I was not in the office today. So I'm not really sure what happened with moving items into the clerk's office for collection. But when we did have our New York State Comptroller's audit, there were some recommendations. A formal report was not issued, as you know, but there were some recommendations, in particular, moving 1 or 2 of the DPW fees that were not currently being collected in the clerk's office to the clerk's office. So I'd be happy to share that with you tomorrow if you wanted to go over that.
We should take a look at that for sure. And I think, again, from an auditor perspective and a financial perspective, it's good to consolidate the fee collection. The issue is that it creates a workflow burden, and that needs to be addressed from a staffing perspective, and it adds responsibility to the office as well.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Great job, Deborah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you,
Much
Deborah.
appreciate it. Yeah.
I will go over all those parking figures and with Ann, and she can make all the changes. Thank you very much.
Look at you, you
Thank
survived
you.
your first budget.
Yay.
Well, I have a lot of people to thank, and for your support, I thank you all for your support very much. I really do appreciate it.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good
I
night.
stayed within my 30 minutes. I get a prize.
Great.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. HR is up.
All right. So the ways in which we were able to look at the 10% reduction that was requested was to really look at the management of the indirect costs related to the operations of the city. That's specifically risk management. So how is the city, having or engaging in behavior that's risk averse? So that's why we would do accident investigations. We would do management training to ensure that decisions that are being made are in compliance with the law and with city policy. So basically, one of the budget items that would have been impacted if the HR budget did meet the 10% reduction that was asked for would be we had to pull back on what was allotted for background checks. So, Anne, if you can go to that section in the request.
Is this what you're looking for, Joanna?
No, the right.
Okay.
So the line that was budgeted, I believe it's probably the KBS sheet. You may need to go a little further.
Okay, you want me to go into the numbers right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So we've historically budgeted under $10,000 for background checks and other sort of related measures we would take to ensure that we are, doing like pre-employment drug screenings, any medical examinations that will be done for police officers or firefighters and the like when it comes to the recruitment process. But based on how we have been hiring on average, we have been hiring 30 people per year. So if we were in fact to meet the 10% reduction, that would have impacted the measures we are taking to ensure that the city is not taking on unnecessary risk. So it was determined that the appropriate number for 2020 would be $20,000. So there's only about a few $1,000s difference in terms of what was the overall budget for 2020 as opposed to 2021. So since there isn't the opportunity to do the management training, we gave back that money. We would just have to shore up our efforts internally to ensure that, you know, decisions that are being made at the management level, how we're hiring, how we're interacting with staff in terms of employee relations is, you know, it's definitely in a way that does not result in unnecessary litigation. And even if there is litigation, the city is in a very good position to prevail. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Joanna.
Wait a second, I'm confused. So you're saying you dropped $20,000 for doing checks and things, or I'm not clear on what you just said.
Okay, so the items that we cut out, there was first money available to do management training.
Okay.
We cut that out. There was money approved in the 2020 budget for a part-time person to digitize records. We cut that out. And we lowered the starting salary for the administrative assistant in the HR department. We still weren't able to meet the 10% threshold because we would have had to dip into the steps that are associated with our background checks. So in looking at that, I look back at the years, how we've budgeted that line, and based on how we've expended. And as of the time the budget request was submitted, it was projected that we would have spent $16,000 doing all of the checks that we do related not only to recruitment, but for example, if there is a situation, let's say a job-related injury in which there was a belief of malingering, we would possibly do an independent medical examination to determine if in fact someone who has a claimed injury is in fact injured, because we're trying to not spend money if we do not need to. So if we were to cut back on, expenditure on those kinds of measures, we may end up in a situation where we're spending more money unnecessarily. So it's just weighing those risks on how we're managing those risks. So based on how we've spent money in years past, the more appropriate number for risk management measures would be $20,000 in 2021.
Okay, I got it.
So-
Thank you.
Yes.
So you are saying for the 2020 budget for the background check, it was 9,000, and the projection is going to be 20,000. So you keep it at 20,000 for 2021, no?
That's correct, because it's more in keeping with how we hire and all of the other measures that we're taking to reduce larger costs like litigation.
Sure, it dug up some interesting.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I think it was a feedback.
It's back on.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Did that answer your question, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
So, Ann, is there any specifics you wanted to bring to our attention? She's you're on mute, Ann.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to show you the 3 lines that Joanna is talking about. It's really this unclassified line that has the background checks. The current year adopted budget was $9,000, but because there have been a lot more activities in terms of hiring and what Joanna just explained, we are projected to exceed our budget. So we're projecting a $20,000 line item. And just because that's the way business seems to be operating, the need to hire people to fill positions as people are leaving, the budget for 2021 is at that $20,000. So even though Joanna was able to reduce the line right here on the following page, page 109, contracts. In the current year adopted budget, as Joanna mentioned, there was money, $10,000 for management training and $3,000 for printing, Joanna? But
the employee handbook will not be printed, correct? It will just be digital.
So anyway, she just moved the money to where it's needed. So in total, the original budget for the current year is $214,000. The tentative budget is lower. It's coming in at $201,000. And Joanna did the best she could. It's not exactly the 10% reduction, but I think it's important to make sure that we're budgeting expenses realistically. So that's the numbers if anybody has any questions.
It's Kathy. 30, you said 30 new hires a year. How?
Yes, that's average.
How does that stack up to other years? Is that more or less or around
No,
the
that's
same?
the average. That is the average.
So it's every year it's around, 25, 30 people?
That's correct.
But do you have the average for people who are retiring and leave the department for any reason?
Well, usually if there is any separation of employment, a resignation, a termination, a retirement, if the city doesn't fill a vacancy, that's where the numbers stack up.
So it's the similar number?
It's included in that 30. So if there's a vacancy created by a resignation, a retirement, a termination, people go on leave and don't come back, because under the civil service law, people have up to 1 year and the city may not be able to fill a particular position, it would count as a vacancy. And if there's in fact a separation, it may be between 1 year as opposed to another. So on average, we are filling positions at a rate of 30.
Does that include the part-time positions, Joanna?
Does it include, I'm sorry?
Part-time?
Part-time, no, this is full-time. This is full-time hires.
Joanne, is this indicative of like a high turnover rate?
No, it's not. So we have 225 year-round staff, and the reason why I include the regular part-time staff is because they work January to December, and there's an expenditure throughout the budget year. So, but it's really full-time staff. We have to track these numbers for New York State as well. They usually require us to provide a report regarding this information, ensuring that, we're not keeping people on the municipal payroll who should not be there. We also report it to Westchester County or payroll. They do an audit of our payroll to ensure that the appropriate titles are being paid at what we said we're paying them, and they keep that data over years. So, yeah, it is really 30. It may seem like a lot of movement, but the average length of service for at least this current group is 15 years. That's the average length of service right now. So people are staying, although there's movement. I just think it's the point in time when it happens. It just seems like there's a lot. But I think it's pretty consistent over the past 8 years I've been with the city.
It's Kathy again. So is there any area of employment, department that it's more prevalent in?
I wouldn't say so. I know that the PD has been trying to fill vacancies for some time. They're down right now in terms of budgeted numbers. So, you know, there are constraints to hiring that one department has, for example, the PD as opposed to, you know, the clerk's office. So I wouldn't say there's anything inherently troublesome about that 30 number related to which positions are hired and the departments to which they're assigned. I just think it's just the nature of how municipal operations run.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And,
I don't know, it
and,
just seems high to me.
you know, I did it. Yeah, it was high when you say that, and I did it a question about the, you know, how relate is with the people who retire, who leave, or who's fired or whatever, terminate the job. Because if you say hired 30 people per year, that could be a confuse for the community, for the public. I say how you looks like it's on the increase the personnel. But thank you for be clear that that's something like is normally people who leave, people who retire and then change.
Yeah.
But something about you mentioned about the background check, and you say that 30, that number 30 is the average for full time only, because I know if I am wrong, just please correct me. The volunteers in the fire department, you have to do the background check also.
Right, but there isn't a cost attached to that. We also, the background checks do not only include those for full-time employees. I was just talking about the number, the turnover. That is only included there. The full-time. In terms of the checks that we do, every full-time and part-time employee does do a pre-employment controlled substance examination. So that is about $70. We also do a criminal history check. That's $95. So it really adds up. Also, there's a $40 charge Westchester County charges for reviewing applications for positions that are required to meet minimum qualifications if you're not taking a test. So to ensure that we're not, hiring people who would not meet the civil service qualifications, what we do is we send ahead after we do the interview, and one of the offers, the conditional offer, states that Westchester County must approve your appointment in order to work for the city of Peekskill. So there's a cost attached to doing that. So it quickly adds up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's it.
Okay, I thank you. Have a good night.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I apologize.
Oh,
sorry about
go
that.
ahead.
But any other? I'm sitting here talking. Was there any questions from any of the members of the council? All right. Looks like there are none. All right. So Joanna, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Every year.
Thank you, Joanna.
You do the same.
Great. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. So next up is the Nutrition and Seniors Department, Jonathan Zamora. Good evening and welcome back, Jonathan.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council, for having me this evening. It's a pleasure as always.
Absolutely. Looking forward to hearing.
All right, so as all departments have during this COVID time, our department specifically had to make major pivots in order to maintain the program integrity and to also continue serving seniors in need. Currently this year, we are seeing a 40% increase just in the Peekskill population for seniors in need of meal services. And we see no stopping point as we reach the COVID recovery process. So our mission obviously is to help improve the well-being of vulnerable and nutritionally at-risk seniors by providing nutritious meals, wellness programs, and socialization opportunities. We've worked very closely this year with Westchester County Office of Senior Programs and Services to provide these abbreviated programs in the virtual setting to seniors. Most recently and quite popularly, we are piloting some outdoor socially distanced lunches for any senior to participate who is able to transport themselves down to the riverfront. We are limiting to 10 seniors per event, and this is just to give us a bit of a pulse of where our population is and how safe people feel potentially coming back into the center as the environment allows. We are coupling this approach with following the best practices by Westchester County Office of Senior Programs and Services, as well as monitoring other nutrition centers' activities as the months continue. So I think most notably this year, for 2021, excuse me, is the elimination of our meal contract services for the town of Cortland, which helps reduce our budget by 10%, specifically as it relates to food costs, as well as there is a part-time food delivery service personnel that we will not be filling a vacancy for. So doing this, focusing on the local Peekskill community and continued providing auxiliary services to our community will help us continue to move forward in 2021 and beyond. So as we move toward the next page, the changes in personnel cost. Looking at the site manager title, which is the one I currently hold, it really is more relevant for kitchen management and does not address the program direction, although I carry out the financial management capacity of the program. As it is, I am immediately reachable on the Nutrition Program Director Civil Service list, which is in line with my job duties. And in my discussions with Westchester County, for professionals who've been working with that office for 25 plus years, everything that I am carrying out in this capacity is in line with the program director title. So to that end, I am requesting that the council submit a reclassification request to Westchester County, seeking whether my job duties are in line with the program director status, and then to make the adjustment thereafter. This is a title that has not been seen in Peekskill for at least 15 years. And really when the exams are carried out and executed by the county, it's really only when vacancies exist. And as you all know, Fran Brunel was a member of this community for quite some time. And this is the first time that these exams have been given. So that is the one request I am making to the council at this time. And regarding personnel. As far as recommendations to streamline the processes, speaking to Deb's point earlier, the city clerk, seniors really don't have widespread access to computers and internet services. We were working pre-COVID with the Peekskill Library to enable a grant, apply for a grant actually to foster computer literacy among seniors, which would have been a phenomenal partnership. Obviously, COVID has delayed our plans a little bit, but that's still in the works. We're also working with organizations throughout the county that offer phone support services and have actually make phone contacts to the seniors. So where, you know, the limitation of internet or Wi-Fi or computer hardware is not an obstacle. So those are some of the things that we're doing to make the services more user-friendly. We really do not expect any shared services or intermunicipal agreements in 2021. Part of what I have envisioned for the nutrition program in line with the director status is to apply for additional grant funds through the USDA and others to help programs that would help a wider caseload of Peekskill's population. So notably youth and adults, really families, low-income families who are struggling to make ends meet. There are opportunities present, especially now in the COVID recovery, that Peekskill could certainly leverage. I don't have to tell anyone on the council or anyone watching, hopefully, that the food need and demand in Peekskill is off the charts. We are closing in on the 750,000 pound mark for food distributions. one of the largest in Westchester County, even though we don't have a population that matches Mount Vernon or Yonkers or any of the larger municipalities. And the efforts certainly are appreciated by all. So one of the changes that I would, in software applications moving forward, we have used Trello work productivity software and its free trial. It's a great way to stay connected, to look at project statuses, provide updates between myself, the senior recreation leader, and also the senior office assistant. This is a great way, especially working abbreviated manners. You know, as the city manager was speaking earlier, some of our department has not been operating at 100% just because of the nature of COVID. We have suspended, you know, social engagement activities, you know, Mets games and other outings that we have planned for the seniors. But in order to help the city and react to the COVID environment, our senior recreation leader has taken apart the role of greeter, as has our senior office assistant helping out periodically in the clerk's office. So we are, you know, making these concessions only because we're certainly not planning to do any outings immediately. However, planning on 2021, we will resume some sense of normalcy. We really can't say when that is. I think we'd all like that to be a little sooner than reality may dictate, but we still have to plan responsibly. So this is why you'll see in the budget numbers, there are certain amounts allocated, and it's only because we're thinking long-term to the end of 2021.
All right.
So if you look here at the budget publication, the income will be impacted due to the loss of funds with Cortland Senior Center. Anticipated in 2020 is about $60,000, will be reduced to about $10,000, taking into consideration Cortland was paying us a few more pennies than it cost to produce the meals. So the $10,000 you see for 2021 is contributions to the meals by seniors. It's very difficult to estimate what those contributions will be. We're certainly grateful for all contributions anyone is able to make to our department. It goes right back to support our program services. One of the creative things that we've done for 2021 is to initiate the SNAP program, SNAP Nutrition Program redemption for the senior meals. So any senior who has SNAP or food stamp benefits can purchase takeout meals through our center to have at home. That is something that no one else in Westchester County is doing. The Office of Senior Programs and Services has asked Peekskill specifically to carry out this program for this purpose. We have the ability, we have the talent, and we certainly have the audience to make this a meaningful program. So moving next, this is the line. These are the pages for the senior services. You see the personnel. The senior recreation leader is the person there. We also have the bus drivers. As you can see, there's been a slight change in the total for the bus drivers and recreation attendants, only because again, with the increase in meal demand, we have to be very creative in making sure that with no one coming into the center for in-person dining, we are 100% delivery-based model. So there are certain requirements and restrictions that Westchester County places on our program. We have to deliver meals from the time that it's packed to the time that it's delivered in less than 2 hours. We are averaging less than 90 minutes. And that's, we have several routes, distribution around the city. And some of my colleagues in other departments have been very generous in their use, letting us borrow periodically some cars to let us carry out these delivery services. So thank you to everyone who certainly helped with that.
Can I ask you something, Jonathan, over there?
Yes, sir.
And over there, you mentioned that now everything is delivery.
Correct.
So, but I was a little bit confused when you say about the bus driver, the recreation is a senior recreation attendant. What you say about that? Like
so right. So to address that, we do offer our Peekskill is a very unique population. 80 to 90% of our participants really rely on the city's transportation to and from the neighborhood center to participate in both the meal services and the recreational activities. The remainder are able to drive themselves or otherwise transport themselves to the center. With COVID and with the restrictions and best practices and guidance from Westchester County, we have not been able to implement transportation services yet. So that is why we are 100% delivery. One of our goals moving forward, hopefully for this year, again, this is a very fluid environment. We are trying to do takeout services for those who live in close proximity, just to say hello and who want to come in and take a meal out back to their homes. We've distributed some surveys to gauge interest in that program. The results are still waiting to be received. So we are planning, again, to resume some semblance of normalcy as soon as we can safely do so.
Okay, all right, thanks. Thank you.
The one thing, let me take a look here. Another, I'm sorry, Ann, can you go up to the previous page with the senior programming? Okay, so one of the other changes we made was to recreation supplies. We've lowered the budget by $5,000. Which is about half of what we usually spend. These funds are used to purchase things like game tickets or activity passes, anything that we do for socialization activities outside of Peekskill. A lot of the organizations and places we usually do business with and attend have very strict COVID related rules, and have have since shut down and will not resume potentially till 2022. So we are planning to be active. However, again, just doing so as responsibly as we can.
Hey, Jonathan, it's Kathy. How are you?
Hey, good evening. How are you?
How are you? Listen, what kind of staff time was taken up with the preparation and delivery of the food to the Cortland people?
Well, Cortland did come and pick up the meals. Our kitchen staff would prepare first thing in the morning. We have staff in at 6 a.m. And at different staggered times. They would batch cook the meals essentially in large containers and have it ready for Cortland to take to their population. For quite some years, the price stayed the same. I think we've had in previous conversations, and we felt at this time, given the COVID environment, it was best to focus on the Peekskill community and maximizing our resources to serving our local seniors.
Okay, but that wasn't, I wasn't asking how it worked. I'm familiar with why I've just wondered, how much time that was taking for us. I know we were losing money on it,
right,
but how much staff time, and does that free up any staff time is the question.
It does. So to answer your question, it was taking approximately 4 hours to prepare the meal from the time that the staff came in to the time that the food left the building. Those hours do free us up to take on.
And that's every day?
That was it, Monday through Friday, every day. And some days, if there was an extra meal because of a holiday or something, it would extend the time and increase food cost.
And that was the entire staff or one person? How did
that was a total of 3 people.
So it was so it was 12 hours of 12 staff hours a day for 5 days a week?
Correct.
That's 60 staff hours, right?
Correct.
See, I passed 8th grade math, you can tell, right? Well, what can we do with that time, or what are you doing with that time?
We are preparing more meals. We're doing more aggressive outreach into the community. We have seen an increase in the Peekskill population. We've added almost 25 additional seniors who have never before been on the program. To put it in perspective, we were preparing roughly 50 to 60 meals for the Cortland Center on a daily basis. So we are certainly making up for that windfall or for that lags in the local community here. So between that and between making check-in phone calls to the seniors, doing in-person or socially distanced visits, we're just trying to provide some sense of normalcy, but we have all intention to maximize our utility for all staff.
And one more thing, do you, Fred's Pantry, do coordinate with them, or not coordinate, but do you keep touch with them if they find seniors who could use that service, since you have, since apparently we have the time and the money, right,
Yes.
to feed more people? And I understand that they're quite overloaded at this point in time. I don't know if their population fits into your demographic or not.
So we do coordinate with a lot of organizations in Peekskill. The requirement to be enrolled in the nutrition program is to be 60 years of age and older, and to live in the city of Peekskill. There's really no other requirement other than that. Once we make the initial sign up or registration contact, we can put the senior on the program in literally less than 2 days. Sometimes it's the very next day. So we do contact with CHOP and with Fred's Pantry and as the Assumption Church and others, the school district, just to increase awareness. We also recently have done some outreach with the Section 8 department. If someone isn't a senior themselves, then maybe they have a neighbor who is a senior, or has a relative or a friend, or someone who can know about this program. And we've had several of our new members really remark to us, hey, we wish we knew about you 10 years ago. You know, so the word is getting out, and we have to continue to be.
You have to continue to do that, because right now I recently talked to somebody from Fred's Pantry, and you know, they've almost doubled the output of what they are trying to do for the community. And I'm sure there must be some seniors in there that could use a good hot meal service.
Absolutely. We're getting calls almost daily.
Okay, well, do a little reach out.
Certainly will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question, Jonathan. And again, thank you for everything that you're doing in the department, the whole department. Before COVID, for delivery food, it was some requirement, no? And now that do you say that you're doing 100% delivery? So that number increased? How that work? What is the difference? And the requirement is for delivery for what is it now?
Right. So the requirement remains the same. The resident has to live in the city of Peekskill. We do an initial intake questionnaire. We gather some essential data that's required by the Office of Senior Programs and Services. We make sure we have emergency contact information for the senior. We have a process where we, dispatch the meal and the routes on a daily basis. And depending on where they live in town, that's where they're placed with a specific delivery driver. Now, in pre-COVID, we did have the bus transportation bring in seniors to the neighborhood center, and we really were only delivering to the homebound seniors, those folks who due to medical restrictions or conditions, could not come and join us in the congregate setting. So that is the major difference. So while we do have we do have a large homebound population, our congregate was even larger. Sometimes a plus of 60 plus people a day, Monday through Friday, and reaching 80 and higher on special meals and holidays, etc. So as the pandemic has sort of, the timeline or the horizon has lengthened, we've seen an increase in the number of people we're delivering to. And that's really the requirement, I guess, to speak of, is living in Peekskill in our ability to continue to handle the delivery caseload.
But now, now they can, some senior like it doesn't have the condition previous to the COVID, they can have the food now. You can provide that.
Yes, we can, and we can deliver to them because our dining room is not yet open.
So, and how many people now you have doing delivery in Peekskill?
Altogether, a little over 100 a day.
100 a day.
Probably about 110 or so.
Wow.
If not higher. So again, we are managing. There is a large population that lives in the downtown area, around the City Hall area, who are able to maybe walk across if they're able. So we are distributing surveys and trying to find where people are at in their comfort level to come back in and potentially walk in to take a meal home. However, we're continuing to communicate with Westchester County as this evolves.
And another question with relate with the budget. How can I see can we see the expense relate with the delivery in the budget here or no?
That's on the next sheet. I believe Anne is scrolling down. So really it's the gas. Here, the homebound food delivery helper, you can see that was budgeted at $54,000. We did lose a part-time delivery person to another opportunity. So we have not filled that vacancy and we don't plan to. What we do is we are maximizing our intermediate clerk and part-time recreation assistant to fill that delivery void. So we don't have to bring in another staff person when we already have hours available to continue these deliveries. I think Councilwoman Talbot was alluding to that earlier. So that is what we are doing. And those are some of the cost savings. Further down on this sheet, I think, is you'll see the difference in food budget. So 0497 from this year, 170,000 for 2021 is now 120,000. We've been very adamant about doing our research, speaking with vendors, talking with vendors on getting the most competitive price. We have a fantastic staff in the nutrition department and they work tirelessly day in and day out to bring these services. So because we prepare close to 100% from scratch, we're able to get fresher food at a less expensive price. So those are some of the cost savings that we'll see from this year to next year.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jonathan, this is Patricia Riley.
Hi, Pat. How are you? Good evening.
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for your presentation. And I just want to say, this program has ramped up so much for the positive the past couple years. And I just want the public to know that you guys there really are working hard to deliver a product that is so beneficial to the community, and you have increased our seniors. When they were going there before COVID, you had a lot of seniors in that dining hall at 12 o'clock because I would come in and visit and see that. And now during COVID, you're delivering the meals, and you've even increased our senior delivery, which is a good outreach for our city, so more seniors are being served in our community. And the quality of the meals have become terrific. I mean, they have become so much better than years ago, so that's another plus. So I just want to say thank you for everything you're doing, you and your staff there. I know sometimes your staff is pulled right now during the COVID time to help out at City Hall or other areas that need it. So you're all pitching in and doing that. And you're also doing the job of delivering nutritious meals to our seniors, keeping everyone fed, and doing outreach with our seniors still and making sure they are all okay. So I just want to thank you and your department and your staff there for an ongoing importance of keeping our seniors important as they are, but keeping them on the forefront of the city of Peekskill, which that's what I definitely want to keep our seniors, to make sure they know how important they are to all of us here. And I want to just thank you for all you do for them and for the city.
Well, thank you for all of your support. None of this could be done without your support and help. So thank you again, sincerely.
I second all that.
Third, all of that.
So just to summarize with the numbers on the top of this page, you'll see the total expenses for Jonathan's two departments. The current year adopted budget has expenses at $713,000. The recommended is a significant drop to $598,000. Again, Jonathan explained the difference in the cost of food and the reduction in the part-time staff. If you look at the bottom line, this is the net against the revenue that we started talking about in the beginning. The original budget had a net of 473. The tentative budget has 408, so it's a difference of $65,000. It's basically the change in the staff because the net accounts for the difference in food and revenue from Cortland. So if anybody has any questions, I can go over that.
Yeah, this is Vanessa. I do have a question, but for Jonathan. Jonathan, can you talk a little bit more about the change in job title that you were mentioning to nutrition site manager? You were saying that that would open us up to more funding from the county?
So in my research with Westchester County, looking at the different titles, again, the program director is not specifically tied to senior meals, and actually does enable me to have the purview or the overview to look for additional opportunities with nutrition services for other populations, not specifically just to seniors. While we certainly remain focused on the senior population and continue to grow, we do think that the COVID recovery environment, what we're seeing across the country and really across the world, is really a demand and need for nutritional services. We have a very unique and special caseload and population in Peekskill. I think that people are going to need resources a little bit longer than ever before, maybe anticipated. And I think that this discussion is relevant now more than ever. We've sought a lot of different funding opportunities in different offices around the state. So there is potential. But again, with my current role as site manager, it really is more enmeshed with kitchen management and not so much program management, which is specifically related to finances. So because I help prepare the budget documents here, oversee the monthly expenditures, and also provide reports and updates to the council, Westchester County, at least the professionals I've spoken to, believe that a reclassification request is needed, but ultimately it's not my decision. So I wanted to bring that to the council, especially when we're reviewing budget tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think it's something that we should consider and discuss, given that it does. I mean, it's very clear that you've taken on responsibilities of not just providing services to seniors, but to kind of a wider community, because that is the need in the moment. And I don't think that need is going to be going away. And we know that here in Peekskill, you know, I think you mentioned that we had the third highest food distribution in the whole county.
That's correct. Yes.
And I believe that Westchester County, it has had one of the highest food distributions in all of the state. So that just that it really speaks to kind of the need that the city of Peekskill is seeing as compared to anywhere across New York. So I do, you know, considering that it would open us up for more funding and greater opportunities for our resources, I think it's something we really should be considering. And, you know, I think it would also demonstrate the appreciation we have for Jonathan and all his hard work in the last few months, and then really, you know, since he's taken on a leadership role.
I agree that we need to take a look at it and talk about it. This is Deputy Mayor McKenzie. I do think we need to consider what other agencies within the city are doing these kinds of things and what we're getting from Westchester County before we burden the taxpayers with the $27,000 that would not just be city services type of thing. So I think it's definitely something that we need to bring into consideration in these discussions for budget and salary increases as we move forward.
Do we know how much money could potentially be brought in by these grants that we'd be open to if we were to change the title position?
There are several grants available, but it's really difficult to pinpoint a specific amount depending on the approach. So I have to do a little bit further research on that, but there is funding available.
Yeah, we need to look at what your current job is and what you're doing, and if there'd be anything that we'd have to do to replace some of the services that you're doing there. So it's a discussion to really have with the city manager and HR to kind of see what we're looking at.
Deputy Mayor, I appreciate your comments. It really is not meant to replace what I'm doing, but allows additional sites to be considered. So while we do have the neighborhood center, dining room and kitchen facilities, we do also have potential plans, I believe in our capital plan, for the 701 Washington Street facility and a kitchen space for the nutrition department there, which would allow us to expand our reach further into the community. But I do.
But again, it's something. Andy, what are your thoughts on this? Andy?
You're muted, Andy.
Sorry, I was on mute there. A couple of things. Number one, it's a real honor and a pleasure working with Jonathan, and his presentation is reflective of his overall management style, which he's clear, he's strategic, and professional. And I didn't put any raises in this budget for obvious reasons of structural fiscal issues. The topic that he's brought up, has been reviewed between myself and Jonathan and Human Resources a number of times, and there is some complexity to it. And so I don't know how far into the weeds on that it makes sense to go, other than to say that his service to the city is outstanding. I didn't put money in the budget for raises because I'm concerned about the overall cost of government, and I didn't want to sort of start cherry picking people, many of whom are really deserving because of merit. And then the question as to, just to mention the 701 Washington, that's something that the city council has discussed a little bit. I brought it up in a budget meeting, I think yesterday or last week. That's an economic development opportunity and site, and we can learn more about it when we have, maybe when we talk about it also in planning. But there's no, the capital plan has that as sort of a bookmark. What we've seen recently is with the loss of the town of Cortland contract, there's sort of a shift going on in the food production, and Jonathan's really leading on that. There's been a vast expansion in the free food, kind of coordination side of things. There's been a contraction, loss of Cortland. There's opportunity for growth in terms of new seniors getting enrolled. There's a lot more delivery going on. There's no congregate meals. So his program is really fluid right now. It'll be interesting to see kind of how things settle out next year. There's the grants typically pay for, programming. Most of these activities are, it's something to be careful about making assumptions about new revenues. And so I would just caution the city council on that front. And we should do everything we can to support Jonathan's work.
But when we're talking about to change the title, that mean, I don't know if I heard very well, but a $20,000 different for the salary, that's what deputy say, or I am wrong?
27,000.
Increase.
Right, but to further define that, it would change the level of my job title to step 4 to level 4A. The increase of 27,500 is actually reached in the 5th and final step of that title. So it's not directly to 2021, doesn't translate to 2021. And I'm not sure if I'm sure Ann has the number on that, what it would be year 1. But that is the 5th and final step for that range.
That number would represent the change in salary to the final salary in 2021. So that's where that number came from.
That is an accurate number for 2021 for that change in title.
27,000.
We understand. Yeah. Look, I mean,
Andy,
the reality is that Jonathan's doing a great job in his current title. It would be great if we had more money for him. And it's a and there is it is something I want to bring HR in on. Again, if the city council wants to know more about the sort of finer points of this kind of title change and what the duties are under each title and matters like that. It feels a little in the weeds for a city council budget discussion, but I think it's important to understand that the program, these programs are run differently in different places with different titles, and there are options, and Jonathan is eligible for a different title if the city wanted to go that direction.
Andy, basically, you're recommending no salary increases for anyone because there's no money to pay for it, basically. Is that, and basically, I think from my past experience, the recommendation for salary increases should come from the city manager. And in this case, if there was money, probably a very good instance for considering a title change and an increase. But basically, my experience, maybe I'm wrong, was when there's a point of somebody's moving up in their career, and not just talking about a step within civil service, but to a title higher, that would be the city manager bringing that to the council for his recommendation. Or you're actually, I don't know if you need a recommendation, you actually could grant the salary increases, title changes. So anyway, that if I'm right in this budget, as we go through each of the lines, there won't be any salary increases for anybody. Is that basically true?
Unless someone has taken on an entirely new job.
Yeah.
Dad, and could I just interrupt? Also, our white unit does have a contractual increase in 2021. So all the white unit employees do have that increase.
And it should bear mentioning as well that the longevity increases are built in. And so depending on the employees, how many years they've been with the city, in some cases in a given year, people will get raises because of longevity.
I shouldn't have said the word raises, but promotion maybe is the promotion and an increase in salary or something like that might be what I'm.
Or like merit. So like merit increases, we're not looking at, unfortunately, because our employees are working very hard. But it's unfortunate that we're in the position we're in. It's the times.
Right. All right. Well,
Jonathan. And Jonathan, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Jonathan, you're really, really good example. I mean, everybody's, I think, very happy for that. Really, this is a hard time for everybody. I would like to have more knowledge about the possibility to. You mentioned something about to provide food to different population in not only senior, maybe another people who are in need. That was something that you mentioned, in the future.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So I just want to say I would like to have that conversation, and even in the current year. Maybe for this moment, I don't think that could be possible. We know the situation, but I know that you doing a lot of research for doing a lot of innovation. That your job and with the food distribution, and even that was not your title. It was amazing, and I hopefully that we can move in that direction. I personally, and the name of a lot of people from senior citizen in reality now, because we are actually we're gonna end next week the Hispanic Heritage Month. If I am not wrong, but you can confirm that we have a lot of increase the number for Hispanic senior citizens who will start to go to this program, to the nutrition program, after the newsletter was made in Spanish, and they have more knowledge to how run the program and everything. it is true or no? I can say yes, but I would like to hear from you.
Oh, no. We've certainly seen an increase in Spanish-speaking seniors coming to the center. Probably back in mid-2019 is when we started noticing an uptick, and it's been steady throughout. So it's been a great addition to our community. Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember that we meet with Pat Riley and a lot of seniors in Barham building, and we can share that information. That came from that meeting. So, and I know because a lot of people that I saw in different places around the city, even sometimes the daughter or the son of the senior, they told me, "Oh, thank you because you did it that because you let me know that, and now my parents had that thing." So it was a very very good sample about the diversification, the how can we improve service and provide much better service to our residents, to the diversity population that we have. Yep.
Go ahead, finish up, Ramon.
Oh no, yeah. I just want to finish. Maybe for next year, if everything go in different direction as the crisis of COVID and everything, maybe we should plan to do in that month a Hispanic menu full and for celebrate the Heritage Month. And
that's a great idea.
Congratulate to Jonathan. Jonathan is his heritage is Spanish from Spain, not from Latin America.
Yes, sir. No. Yep.
So maybe we can eat some paellas over there. So
that would go over
thank you for everything.
Ramon, mi favorito amigo. Gracias. Jonathan, I just want to say thank you sincerely for your presentation, man. It's been a pleasure working with you over these years since you've been here, and you've always done a pretty fantastic job, in my opinion. And you definitely go over and beyond outside of your department, helping out in many ways that I can't thank you enough for. So thank you for this. I don't want to hold you too much longer because we still have 3 other presentations that we have to do. I believe the council's asked the questions that they want to ask for now. Of course, council, if there are more questions that you couldn't think of tonight, you can always send an email to Jonathan or the city manager, and we can discuss them at the next budget. So, but Jonathan, thank you sincerely for all your work in that department and your entire staff, and I look forward to continuing to work.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Everyone have a good evening. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, so next we have Planning Department, Gene Friedman. Gene, good evening.
Good evening, everybody. How are you tonight? Good.
Doing wonderful.
Is my volume okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay, very good.
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
so I'll start. So we have the Department of Planning and we have the Department of Economic Development. So we'll do the 2 separately since that's how it's laid out in the budget. So the Planning Department's mission is, as you know, to promote responsible development for improved quality of life in the city and to increase our tax base. We also obtain numerous grants, and we need to implement those grants and carry them out and spend the money on city projects for public facilities, infrastructure, and public amenities. So that's our overall mission. Our goals, one of our main tasks is to oversee 5 boards and commissions. We have the Planning Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Historic and Landmarks Preservation Board, the Artist Certification Committee, and the Conservation Advisory Council. So we have staff attending all those meetings and overseeing all their work and providing their information and research. So we also have been receiving a number of petitions for rezoning. So when applicants apply, we have to review those zoning requests, and if they make sense and if they're a positive direction for the city, we seriously consider them and bring them to council. So that, as you know, takes an extensive amount of time with public hearings and planning commission and all sorts of input on a rezoning. So that's been a major part lately. And then all the projects that we've been working on, Oakwood Drive, which is still proceeding. We're going to rebid that project and hopefully maybe get some additional money or revise the scope on that. a Main Street Streetscape grant that we have that will be starting. A number of projects we're able to hopefully supplement with some of the DRI funds. So we're waiting to be able to do the full project with a little bit more money. So those will be coming up shortly. With the county grant, we have a number of projects. We're overseeing the infrastructure on 1847 Crown Pond Road, that infrastructure work up there. We're overseeing all that and the grant and spending the money, as well as 645 Main Street, which is the Bill Balter project. So we're overseeing the infrastructure and the parking garage there. Fleischman Pier is another big one. We have the construction documents done. We're just waiting to hear on the DRI funding again. We do have a $2 million grant, but a large project like that needs a bit more money. So that's in the request for DRI. We've been starting in on the benchmarking again, which was a big item the last few years to analyze our energy usage in our city buildings. And we are continuing to analyze that data, and we'll be back to you in a few months on where we are with that. The CAC brings up, has a lot of environmental and energy initiatives that we follow through on and assist the CAC with those. And then obviously the DRI, which we're all sort of waiting with bated breath. Obviously it's been awarded, so we do have $10 million, but the state, we are waiting for them to identify exactly which projects will be funded. The committee is submitting $14 million worth of projects. The state has asked us to go, above the amount so that the state can decide on which the finalists are, and then if anything drops out over the next year or two, there would be another project to substitute. So that's why there's more than the 10 million, but there's quite a number of projects there that we'll be working on over the next few years. We're continuing to work on the affordable housing legislation that's been brought up over the last few months. We will be back to you on that with some more information. The county CDBG, we've joined the county consortium this year. So we're anticipating a fairly large grant for Hollowbrook Dam repairs. So that will be a very big project to oversee, as well as we'll be starting in on planning for the next 3-year plan for CDBG. They ask us to do it in 3-year increments and to apply for projects over the next 3 years. So we'll be back to you soon with that to decide which types of projects to apply for. We're working on the county climate action plan, which is obviously initiated by the county, but they ask municipalities to participate. So we have staff working on that plan. We'll be preparing construction documents for another segment of the waterfront trail. You wouldn't think there's anything left, but there is a small section on Riverfront Green, which people tend to have to walk through the parking lot or whatever. So we're trying to connect the trail all the way around to Peekskill Landing there. So that will be going on. And finally, Fort Hill Park, we have full construction documents on improving the trails there and adding signage and things like that. So that we have been funded for that, but the state contract hasn't been, we're waiting on the state contract from the state in order to start that project. So that's just kind of an overview of the projects we're working on. Obviously there are more, but those are the main ones. Talking about how our budget has been reduced for 2021. We did make small changes based on, where I saw the budget going, in office supplies and advertising, conferences and education. Those numbers I dropped each of those numbers to get some kind of reduction. The main reduction that I did was in the planning services line. So this has been an amount that's been in the budget for years and years, which basically very small studies come up all the time. We need, an appraisal, we need a survey, we need a little analysis on zoning, various small things like that. We would be able to take out of the planning services line as needed when they're required. We are trying to reduce that as much as possible, do more work in-house. And so I've reduced that by almost $26,000 this year. So that was a considerable savings in our budget. The one addition, though, I am asking for, which I hope you will, continue to find important, that we talked about in 2020 with the DRI award, is that the number of projects for our department will probably double. And it just is inconceivable that we would actually be able to spend $10 million with the current staff we have. So we had talked about adding a planner to manage and implement spending that money. We can do that work with an assistant planner. So the number in the budget is I believe $65,000 for an assistant planner who would basically be, pretty much an entry-level planner with a master's degree that can handle, budgets and construction and contracts and, everything that goes into managing a project. So, I hope I understand in this, year is a terrible year to have to do that. But you understand that in order to spend $10 million, the city does, may need to, provide the ability to do that. I would hate to see us not be able to spend some of the money. That would be the worst thing in the world, because it just, to the state, it shows that we haven't stepped up to the plate to actually do what we said we would do. By spending the money as quickly as possible in a few years' time. And I should say that we still don't know when these DRI projects are going to start, because we're waiting on the state to let us know. So I would suspect that we may not even need the person for the first few months of 2021, in which case that number would go down, and we would hold off on hiring a person until we really the last minute that I would need somebody to start taking over projects. And then that person would probably only be needed for a few years until the DRI money is spent. So it's not necessarily a forever position. Enough said on that. I have gone through we do collect quite a bit of application fees in the department for, planning board and zoning changes and variances and all sorts of fees. So our department has gone through all those fees, and we are recommending some increases mainly to the larger projects. We're getting a lot of larger projects these days, and we were looking at our comparison with other communities, and we really could go a bit higher and not be off the charts with fees. We're not touching the small homeowner or the small commercial business. Those smaller fees are staying where they are. We don't want to go crazy on that, but we feel the larger developments can pay a little bit more. And that's not reflected in my budget because it took a while for us to get those numbers together. So we would expect a little bit of an increase in our fees for next year to increase our intake. So I think that's about it for my planning budget. I don't know if you want to ask questions about the planning budget first, or have me go right into economic development and then ask questions at the end. It's up to you.
Jean, it's Kathy. I just want to say you left out the fact that your office handled a lot in the census as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. You're right. It's a huge undertaking.
That was a big thing, and I know Jessica worked very, very hard.
She did
on that.
Yes,
as
I'm
she
sorry
does
I
on
missed
many things. She's a fantastic employee.
Right. And it is still ongoing. Everybody, you still have until October 31st. This is a public service announcement. Please, if you didn't answer the census, it's really important for, this money that I'm talking about that we get.
Yeah.
Counting you will get us more money. Every single person makes a difference. So if you want the city to do more on, infrastructure, provide water, sewer, et cetera, that's a lot of that is grant money, and they base it on how many people you have based on the census count. So that's just a little plug that's why the census is one of the reasons the census is so important. Okay. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So
So-
you want to ask some questions on the planning budget first?
It seems
Or-
pretty concise. Any members of the council, you guys have any questions that you want to ask before she moves on?
I'd love to hear the economic development budget and then see how they fit together and then see if there's comments.
Sure, okay, I'll move on. So in addition to the mission of the planning department, the economic development office also assists developers, investors, and local businesses with locating to Peekskill or expanding in Peekskill. So that's a big function of economic development. So we have a major role is overseeing the Industrial Development Agency. Our employee, Matt Rudikoff, is the executive director. So he's been doing a great job expanding the role of the IDA, and they're getting more involved in economic development projects and funding more projects since they do have a budget. The office is starting the micro enterprise grant program. So if anybody doesn't know, that program just opened up on Monday, and the information is online. Small businesses can apply for those grants through our office. Then we're continuing to work on the New York Main Street program, which is a specific area of town where there could be facade improvements and for businesses, residential. So that's well underway, and we've picked the projects that are going to be starting fairly shortly. The DEC, we're working with DEC on a corporate drive for that landfill closure. I know this has been a long-standing project at 9 Corporate Drive, but we do have a need at this point. It ties in with our Lower South Street project, which is going to be developed on that 9-acre city site where the city has been storing a lot of its DPW equipment and facility or whatever. We need to move that equipment out of there. So we're looking at 9 Corporate Drive as a possible new location for the DPW facility. So we're going to be starting in on some studies to analyze that and analyze the site there. So that's all being done under the Economic Development Office. As well as the planning office. So not only is there the Industrial Development Agency, but we also do have the Peekskill Facilities Development Corporation and the Peekskill Local Development Corporation. So those are all quasi-governmental agencies that we need to report to the state on their activities and on their budgets. And we're also the liaison to the Business Improvement District. We have a representative going to those meetings and interacting with the local business people. The Washington Street Firehouse, we're looking at that as a potential kitchen incubator, and we've had a lot of interest on that. The IDA has been involved, and the next step is really to potentially hire a very specialized consultant who applies for EDA CARES Act grants who have funded incubators. So we're hoping that that's a really good avenue in order to get this moving if it's something that the city wants to do. And that will move that project forward. You just heard about the urban farm the other day. That took a little while to do, but that will be up and running. So that'll be a really nice addition to the downtown to have, fruits and vegetables growing right in downtown. That will be a source of food for the local community. So that's another activity we're doing. We do marketing and outreach is quite a bit of that. And we'll be talking about in the budget, sort of rearranging those numbers a little bit to really have a push for social media, for destination marketing, and also for advertising and groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings and those kind of things. There's the reduction in this budget would be, we had a line item in there last year for $10,000 for branding downtown in the waterfront areas. We've always talked about branding the city, which means, you know, establishing a brand, you know, make Peekskill pop out to people and have it like a household name. We haven't really embarked on that, but actually the DRI has a component in it for branding. So we pretty sure we're going to get that funding. So we took the $10,000 out of the budget this year. So that's saving some money there that the city won't have to spend. And I think that's about it. There's no request for any increases. You know, there's just some deductions here, which is good. And I guess that's about it if you have any questions on either of those.
Gene, I'm not familiar with the Peekskill Facilities Development Corporation. What
Right.
is that?
It's another quasi-governmental that's you know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to define it exactly right. I'm trying to think of what they've done some projects in the past. I can get back to you on the specific projects that they've done. I don't believe they're involved in anything right now, but in the past they have, and they have certain roles and criteria that the state gives them to be that they're able to do. And I don't have that right in front of me. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. And then one other quick thing, Chateau Reeve, it's nice to see it's on your list. It's been kind of a small disaster from when it started back in the early 1980s. And so they're looking to rezone to be able to add more units and solve some of the problems they've got there. Is that the long and short of it?
Well, we haven't gotten an official application from them, but I am hearing that there has been some discussion to actually, let me go back. A couple of years ago, we did get a request for to discuss the renovation of that building and to possibly add another building, and it required a slight zone change. So we started talking about it, and it did not proceed. The discussion did not proceed. My understanding is that there is some discussion in the private sector right now, back and forth, which I'm not really privy to, but I think something will be coming down the pike for that building. But I don't know any details right now.
Thanks. It's not really a budget question, just curious. So, but thanks for all the listing of all the projects, all the work you're doing. Looks like an exciting year ahead of us, Vinny.
Jean, it's Kathy. I wonder if you can just share, I didn't think I saw it on your list, the old White Plains Linen Building on Highland Avenue.
Right.
Is there any movement on that? And do you know what the status is of that?
You know, I've called every few months. There's an owner that purchased the property, and he had some grand ideas when he first purchased it, and we discussed them, and he seemed very positive about residential and, you know, small boutique type hotel was his original idea, and to be able to have parking on the site, and it seemed like it would be something that would fit into the neighborhood. We were all ready to go, but he just didn't proceed, and I just don't know where he's at the moment. Yeah, obviously we can't push a private developer to do something with private property. So you just
right. Yeah, because I know
check up every few months.
I know that other small project for the old Baxter's Pharmacy on the corner of Orchard and Highland, that building, that got scrapped, right?
The Orchard and Highland,
Yeah,
for the firehouse?
Right across from the Monument Park. There was
yes, unfortunately, yeah, very disappointing. That had all its
very
approvals, and it was going to potentially get one of the Main Street grants. And yeah, I guess COVID just, they just couldn't do it, because that's when we heard when that started that they just were not able to go forward.
Because I just, and I'm always sort of trying to push something happening up in the north end of, you know, that north end of town, because it is a gateway to the city. Both, you have Highland and North Division coming in to town, and you know, it's just, you know, the forgotten child in some ways. So I really keep pushing for that.
that part of one of the DRI projects is an upgrade to Monument Park. So that would be something.
Yeah,
So
I almost asked you that to confirm because
yeah,
I was.
yeah, we don't know yet if it's going to be funded. That'll be a state decision, but it will be. It is one of the projects recommended.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. That White Plains linen would take care of a whole block though.
It
you
sure
know.
would. Yes.
And then some, because it would go up around the corner onto North Division, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Highland to North Division on Orchard on the next street up. Right.
Okay.
And is there anything
Thank
that
you.
you want to highlight in this budget that we should be aware of? And Jean, thanks again for both presentations.
Sure.
You already know your work here has been phenomenal your entire
Thank you.
time. So thank you sincerely.
Thank you.
Well, like Jean already said, she was able to save money in a few different areas, but because we are requesting a new position, the planning department, you could see the budget is being increased. The current year adopted is 476,000. The recommended is 524. If we go to the next department, economic development, there is a decrease from 297,000 to 286,000. So in total, of the two departments netted against her little revenues, it is an increase from 613,000 to 650. So that's the summary.
I did the best I can with the deductions and then with the fee increases, which isn't shown here, obviously, the revenue increases that we may get. So, but it is what it is.
Good to know those fee increases and your estimate for what the fees might take in this year. But in any event, I certainly I've sat in your seat, and I certainly know the kind of funds that are coming in and the kind of expenditure of staff time. Overseeing grants is no easy thing. So I would certainly support the fact that your budget has an increase in it to add the assistant planner position.
I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you.
Any other council members want to weigh in on either one of these two presentations? Okay, looks like not. So Jean, thanks again, as we do every year. We appreciate it. Council, again,
great
council had
job.
plenty of time to think about any ideas that they would like to recommend or suggest. And we'll come up with a final decision very soon. But Jean, thanks again.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Jean.
All right, so winding down to our last two departments. Next up is our legal department with Ms. Melissa Ferraro. Good evening, Melissa.
Good evening, everybody.
Is
I'm
her screen, right, Melissa? So I'm going to stop sharing.
No, you share that, and then I'll let you know. I sent council everything already, so I may not have to share.
Okay.
Now, are we looking at what you sent us, or?
You can look at what is on the screen right now, and then I'll go through what I sent you.
Got it. Okay.
I can share it, but in order to share it, I have to have my work computer on. My work computer doesn't have a video, so I'm on here twice. Not to complicate things, but. Ready? So my office is a little different than the other departments that you've heard from this evening. The Corporation Counsel's office, the purpose is to defend the city in all matters, to provide legal advice in all matters. I think that I've been involved in probably every aspect of what was brought to you today in all of the other departments. So I touch upon a little bit of every aspect of the city. That being said, my department was asked to reduce costs by 10%. So if you look at the budget, and if you can scroll down to the actual budget part, you'll see that my office runs at a bare minimum with costs for public notices, costs for mailings, those all have to do with providing for the in-rem processes, all of the court fines, things like that. The majority of the budget in the Corporation Counsel's office is personnel, and then is for litigation. So personnel is the only place that I could find to suggest any cuts. I have been informed that Gloria Zanghetti, a longtime secretary in the Corporation Counsel's office, is going to retire. She's going to retire, I believe her effective date is January 19th of 2021. So in anticipation of that, Ms. Zanghetti does handle a lot of things, like she prepares the court dockets for our prosecutions of the local law matters and the building code violations. She responds to all correspondence that come into the office. She goes through all the e-filings. So I do need somebody in that capacity. My plan is to cut the position to a part-time position. So as opposed to Ms. Zanghetti's salary, which was, I'm looking to cut it to $25,000. So that's a $44,054 savings. The other proposal was a suggested rolling furlough for myself and the Assistant Corporation Counsel. The problem with that, I did meet the 10% decrease, but the problem with that is that there would be a significant amount of time that neither myself nor the Assistant Corporation Counsel would be in the office, which would hinder the city pretty drastically, because there would be at least, the recommendation was 4 days a month for 4 months, 1 day a month for 8 months for myself, 4 days a month for 4 months, 2 days a month for 4 months, and then 1 day a month for 4 months for the Assistant Corporation Counsel position. So that's, having somebody not in the office that much would hinder the city, because I know it doesn't, my office is kind of in the background, so it's not clear what my office does. So I did provide the council, I don't think I need to screen share it, but the duties of the Corporation Counsel's office. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just a list of items that I've been working on recently. Just all of the items. I may be on a phone call with one department about an issue with a contract, and then within 5 minutes, I'm getting another issue with personnel or a matter of a grievance, all different areas of the city. So I'm kind of all over the place, and it's my understanding that years ago, the city only had a part-time attorney. And when that happened, the cost to the city for outside counsel fees was drastic. Since I've come to the city 5 years ago, I've been able to reduce the budget, the overall budget for the Corporation Counsel's office by $500,000. Because what used to happen is anytime something came into to my office, it would automatically go out to an attorney. All negotiations were handled by Labor Counsel. All grievances and disciplinary actions were prosecuted by Labor Counsel, and all litigation was handled by outside counsel. So we've taken on all of that responsibility in my office, which leads to a very busy office. Tim was just out recently on paternity leave, and I could feel it. There were things that needed to be addressed, and it was a lot of juggling because the amount of meetings that I have to partake in, and going through all of the contracts and reviewing every document that goes through the city. Any document that's signed by the city manager goes through my office, and I review it. I review every resolution. I review every contract from the county, all the items that you as the council provide to the authorization for Andy to sign, I have to review. So if anybody has any questions regarding the duties that I've provided, that is one topic that I wanted to discuss. So for that reason, because of the amount of work that comes out of my office, Andy was concerned about providing the furloughs. Now, that being said, even with the 10% decrease in the budget, I did ask in my budget for an increase in 3 lines. One is the settlement line. Right now, the settlement line is $100,000. I asked that it be increased by $200,000 to a total of $300,000. The second line is the outside counsel line, which I asked that it increase $150,000. So it would be a total, right now it's 100,000. It would be a total of 250,000. And the third line that I asked be increased is the tax certiorari line, which right now is 0. But all settlements for tax certiorari cases that are authorized by the council do come out of the budget in the Corporation Counsel's office. So I'd ask that that be budgeted for $100,000 this year. So overall, I asked for $450,000 increase. It was ultimately denied. I just wanted to explain to the council the reasoning behind that and where we can go from here. So again, my office is slightly different from other people because a lot of my budget are the litigation related. And those are things that I have to estimate, cases that we have pending and matters that I foresee coming. It's kind of like a guesstimate as to how much money we could expend in litigation. Now, we have several federal claims right now, and a federal claim is unique in and of itself. So those cases I do send to outside counsel. All other litigation we retain. So for that reason, because of the number of cases that I have right now pending and that I expect to get over the course of the next year due to issues in society in general, due to the experience that I've had just in the last week or two with the number of cases that are newly filed against the city, I expect more federal cases, and the more federal cases we have, those are the cases I use the outside counsel line for, because the federal cases are very time consuming, and we just don't have the capacity in my office with 2 attorneys to be able to also handle those federal cases. The settlement line is just my estimate based upon the same reasoning. The number of cases that we currently have pending, potential cases that we have with notices of claim, and what I can expect. We have a self-insurance retention amount of $100,000, which means every case that settles up to $100,000 the city is responsible for. And that amount, excuse me, comes out of the Corporation Counsel's line. So I had asked for an increase. It was not offered. And I believe I spoke to Ann and I spoke to Andy, and the reasoning is because these are unknowns and this is a place where the budget can be cut. I just want to make sure, and I will keep the council abreast of what's going on with all of these cases, if there is a potential for settlement or new cases that are coming in, because I don't want to come to the council next year if we have a settlement and we need to go into the fund balance or someplace else in order to get the funding to settle a case. I do just want to clarify what the difference between the outside counsel and the labor council costs are. These are 2 bar graphs that I did email to the council members earlier today. Let me know. I can screen share them if you need me to. I'll screen share them now anyway. Okay, so
Is
this
that the one with the red chart, the red bar graph?
I just put it on the screen anyway. So these are just two different charts that I had presented to the council previously, just for so you can kind of get an idea, because I understand that, you know, the concern is having to pay outside counsel costs. But I just want to clarify for the council what the difference is here. So this screen right here is for labor counsel costs. Labor counsel is what the city used to use for, like I said, contract negotiations, disciplinary hearings, grievance hearings, arbitrations, all of those things that my office has now undertaken. So in the past, between 2011 and 2015 is when I started with the city expended about $380,000 in labor counsel costs. The current expense for labor counsel is below $50,000 at this point. And that's for if we have matters of labor labor relations that we think are going to develop into a federal claim, then I like to bring in outside counsel initially, because it's better as an attorney to handle a case from the beginning, from the inception, than to try to learn a case once it's already on for litigation. So that's that cost. The other cost here, if I can get it open, is the outside counsel costs. So from 2011 to 2015, the city spent almost $2.7 million on outside counsel fees. Now it's less than 500,000. So again, those outside counsel fees that I use is not for every case of litigation we get in. We get notices of claim routinely. Right now we have pending in the office, we have, in this year, we have 7 cases that are pending with outside counsel that I've spoken to the council about. We have 10 active lawsuits right now. We have 19 notices of claim that are currently pending. They're not in litigation yet, but they're notices to the city to let us know. So once we get those, we do act on them. So my office, we handle the, they're called 50H hearings. It's basically a deposition before any lawsuit happens. So we handle those cases. We've settled 3 cases and we've closed 7. Closing them without a settlement just means that either they were dismissed or there was no lawsuit filed. So those are the reasons why I asked for the increases in the lines. And I completely understand not providing for them. I just wanted to make the council aware, I'll stop sharing my screen, of the concerns that I do have with the litigation that we do have pending, with the notices of claim we have pending, with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission claims that we have pending. Those are the reasons why I asked for those increases to those lines. It's more of an insurance to have it, so that you wouldn't have to go into the fund balance. If those monies are not spent, it goes back into, it reverts back into the fund balance anyway. Does anybody have any questions?
Take a look at this again.
Yeah, could Ann weigh in on that, please? Ann?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just starting up my screen share again.
Yeah, I'm wondering
You know what?
if.
It was a very tight budget.
Yeah, no, I know.
It was a very tight budget. You know, so I'll just open up the numbers really quickly. You know, we have one department that's in the general fund, Department 1420, which is for the Corporation Council. So as Melissa said, if you look at just this department, the budget did go down from an adopted budget of 463 to a tentative budget of 429. And Melissa explained it was the retirement and bringing a part-time person. The other items, the judgment and claims, you'll find in department or cost center 1900 special items. So it's this last line here. I'm sorry, the top line here, judgment and claims. It's, you know, the request was at $300,000. We knocked it down to $200,000. We were trying to balance a budget. You know, depending on the timing, if all of these cases do settle for the amount that was estimated in 2021, we will have to look for a budget adjustment. I just didn't want to appropriate more money from fund balance for something that may or may not happen. And if it does happen, like I said, I think that we would have to look for opportunities for a budget transfer or consider appropriation from fund balance.
Well, it's sort of,
Actually, we'll talk about it in the next department. I think that there are 1 or 2 areas that may have some extra money in 2021 that would allow in case this exceeds the budget.
Because it's Kathy. It almost seems, just wrapping my head around it, it's either going to be in this line in holding just in case, or it's going to be in the fund balance in holding just in case. So it's sort of
Absolutely.
a wash, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a wash. It's a
I
wash.
just wanted to bring it to the council's attention because if that were to happen, we would have to present it to the council. We would have to do a transfer. So I didn't want the council to wonder why it
Yes.
wasn't budgeted
I got it.
an appropriate amount over the next year. But you're absolutely right. The money is there if we need it. According to Ann, it's in the fund balance. I just didn't want to next year come to the
Yeah.
council and say, oh,
I hear you.
$50,000 and well, why didn't you budget for that? And
Right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
Well, it's good
Also
to
a
point it
function of
out,
how
I
many
think.
claims, because like Melissa said, we're responsible for the first $100,000 for each claim. So
Okay, so it's in there. I mean, if we have to, we have to, but hopefully we won't. I mean, that's right.
Right. And working now that we are using outside counsel very limited, I am controlling every step of the way. So we get monthly vouchers. I get routine reports. I know every step. They're not just cases. When I first started here, some of these cases, trying to figure out what the status was and what the expenditures were was like pulling teeth. So we're no longer using those firms that we couldn't get the information from. So now I have a working relationship with several outside counsel attorneys who I trust and are relatively I don't want to say inexpensive, but easy to work with and easy for me to monitor. Even though I can't be in federal court, I can monitor what's happening there.
Well, easy to work with often translates into less money. Right?
I guess so. I mean, they're good. We've not
In
had
my experience.
with the attorney that the attorneys that I'm speaking with have had positive results for the city.
Okay, all right. Thank you, I get it.
You're welcome.
And like you mentioned, this request that you're doing is because something coming in the last minute, no?
That and other things, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Just I have to kind of guess what potential litigation is coming.
Yeah.
And based upon my professional experience and the experience in this last year, I anticipate more lawsuits being filed against the city, whether they have merit or not. We still have to defend them.
Mm-hmm.
And a settlement doesn't necessarily, a settlement is not an admission of wrongdoing. So if there were a settlement of a case, that does not admit that the city was wrong. What it does is it takes it out of the hands of a jury and it allows for the city to regulate how a case is going to, exactly what the result is, as opposed to taking a chance. So those are decisions that have to be weighed. That's when I bring it to the council and decisions are made.
Yeah, I grew up with 3 lawyers, like a brothers and sisters. And there's a limit. No, it's this expression in Spanish. They say it's much better a bad deal than the good fight. So
right,
that makes sense.
Fights are costly too.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Whether it's my office doing the litigation like we handle across the street in city hall, in city court, because we're not in the office able to do other work. So it's costly one way or another.
Hey, Ramon, say it in Spanish.
In Spanish?
Yeah.
Es mejor un mal negocio que un buen pleito o una buena pelea.
So we all know that now. Okay.
Hopefully.
Melissa, this is Dwight. Where are we in the union negotiations, both for 2020 and projecting into 2021? If our budget has no increases in it for union salary increases, it's struck me that that isn't always easy to achieve.
Yes, what we do is we estimate, right now we have 3 budgets that we need to negotiate. They were supposed to start negotiating this year in 2020, and then the coronavirus hit. So they've been on hold. But in speaking, Ann can speak to this more thoroughly, but we have accounted for potential salary increase negotiations, but obviously without having started them, it's not concrete. So we can't, it wouldn't be in my budget, it may be in the general budget or somewhere, but those numbers are accounted for so that we do have the funding.
I will certainly go through all of that when we get to that section.
I'm just also interested in what is the, for the city, who is the union negotiation team for the city?
It's myself. It used to be Ann. Now it will be whoever the new comptroller is. It will be Andy and Joanna.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And it depending on the departments, we consult with the chief of police or, well, that's pretty much it. The other unions, we don't have any discussions, and then they have their team. Any other questions?
Any other questions for any other members of the council on this presentation?
I just wanted to, very quickly, it's Andy Stewart, city manager. I had
Please.
to take a call related to the fire department, but I want to say, because I've said this about the other department heads, you know, the extraordinary productivity and responsibility that Melissa and Tim and Gloria handle is really commendable. And I think it's great that people get some of the background information about the trends and the expenses over time there. The question of contract negotiations really should be something we talk about in executive session if we're going to have any detail on it. And so, you know, we can do a presentation on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy. I was going to just mention that. And thank you, Melissa, for your presentation.
You're welcome. If anybody has any questions that you remember later, just email me.
Absolutely. All right, Melissa,
Thank
thanks
Have
again.
a good night. Good
All
luck.
right, you too. All right.
Thank you, Melissa.
Bye.
All right. So, Andy, you did say the chief is on, so I guess he's chief. If you're there, just state if you're in the public or private location, and you can begin.
This is Chief Helmy. I'm in a private location.
All right, good evening,
Good
chief,
evening,
and
everyone.
welcome.
Good evening. So,
Hey, Chief.
in my presentation, we'll be covering 3 budgets. Obviously, the police budget is the largest. The other 2, animal control, emergency management, they're very small budgets. To start off with the police budget, you know, this obviously 2020 has been a very challenging year, and going into the budget, you know, going into the budget year of 2021, based on what 2020 has been like, you know, will definitely be challenging for us, you know, moving forward. I think, you know, one of the things that, you know, that we look at as this department is a department of 57 members. Just a few years ago, we were at 62 members. A few years ago, we had a few more civilian employees as well, and we you know, over the past few years have whittled down to, you know, what I believe is a minimal size staff. So working into what the challenges are, what we have to, you know, in front of us going into 2021, you know, obviously the biggest thing, you know, is going to be, you know, dealing with police reform. There's the potential, obviously, for a lot of different proposals, that may impact our budget, that, or most probably will in some way or another, they'll impact our budget. However, until those reforms are officially, filed with the council and then, approved, to meet the governor's mandate, I can't really add any of that stuff into the budget right now. One of the things that I would say is, and I have spoken to some of the council members ahead of time about this in the past, as early as when this first occurred back in May, at the end of May. And one of the things that that we discussed was bringing forth a program to kind of overhaul our policies and procedures in the department, which is basically our department manual that deals with all all the rules and regulations that our police officers follow. And there is a company that uses the federal statutes, the New York State statutes, even our local codes, puts it together to create what they believe is the ideal policy for police departments. They use best practices by police agencies all over the country. They work closely with New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services in order to make sure that our policies follow what they believe are the model policies. And really the big cost in switching over to a program like this is the initial year one cost, where they need to basically overhaul all our policies and procedures. They take them and basically go over every one with a fine-tooth comb and basically change them and adjust them, to how they think they're best needed, to what fits, the Peekskill community, the Peekskill Police Department. And then, once it's all put in place, we can apply it to our officers. When looking at police reform, I think there will be policies and procedures that are going to change. And using a firm like this that has a legal team involved that's going over each policy to make sure that laws are being followed, that legally they are suffice, and they are something that would leave the department and the city covered, in cases of lawsuits. Obviously not everything, but definitely would be the closest, to having the best legal coverage, to what our officers are allowed to do or not allowed to do. So that's kind of the proverbial big ticket item, that I'm asking for in the budget, to have that added this year. That there is like I said, there is that 1 year big ticket item, then big ticket cost. Then there is there's maintenance costs over the year. I also have Joanna looking into it, that I believe there's a discount through PERMA, that if we use this company, that PERMA will give us a discount towards the yearly maintenance. I believe close to 25%. So that in itself helps us and shows that PERMA or risk management believes that this is something that the city should invest in. So that's kind of the big thing that I'm asking for financially. When we look at our police budget, one thing about police departments is they are constantly evolving with technology. Police departments, when we look at things like body cameras, they're extremely expensive. Gone are the days of typewriters and typing out a police report. Now things are all done on computers, and they're done on computers in the cars. This technology, is expensive. It breaks a lot. So, when we look at our budget, a lot of it being equipment, and maintenance of equipment are really, two of the bigger aspects of it. And the reality is that most of these costs, are going just to replace items that we already have. Either replace them, either the cost to replace, or just the cost, to maintain them. This city is constantly over the last few years is really growing. It seems every meeting, Gene is on talking about, this big new construction project that's being added to the city, which is constantly bringing new people into the city and naturally going to increase the call for emergency services, whether that's police, fire, ambulance, regardless, there will be an increase. There is a greater need for your first responders. Coming into this budget, before all the COVID hit, even if it wasn't this year, it's next year. We're asking for an increase in the personnel line as far as bringing in more police officers. Obviously, with the COVID budget, COVID affected budget, we realize we can't ask for that now. So we won't. Another big thing, as I mentioned, is how discovery changed with the bail laws, and the discovery laws changed. It's become, with all the technology, with video, audio recordings, our body cameras, the videos outside from private locations, all radio recordings, transmissions on the phone and the radios, the amount of data that needs to be collected now for every arrest that goes through the city is tremendous. And with these discovery laws, discovery basically meaning what, the presentation of your evidence to the defense attorney in any criminal case, basically in the first few weeks of after arrest and after arraignment, it's become a full-time job that we never really had to deal with. And even coming into this budget, I was prepared to ask for another position just for that. And now we're cutting that. We're not, we're cutting we're not cutting the position. We're removing the asking for that. Lastly, our police department, as I mentioned, we are budgeted 57 officers. We at this moment right now have 52 officers. I hope to have one added in the next few weeks. However, in the next few weeks, I also have an officer that has put in his papers and is retiring in about a week and a half. I have another one that's expected to retire within the next 3 months. I have another officer I would expect to have gone in the next few months. So it's a constant, one step forward, 2 steps back as far as filling positions. I've personally, in a little over 2.5 years, I've hired 14 officers, with a 15th basically coming by the end of October. That's a huge amount of officers hired in such a short span, and it continues to be a challenge, especially in a day and age where we are doing everything we can to make sure that the officers that represent us are the best possible officers we can get. So there's definitely going to be savings in this budget, just through the personnel aspects that just can't be filled right now, barring any unforeseen, floodgate of qualified candidates, banging on our door trying to get in that meet all the criteria and requirements that we need right now. Another thing is vehicles. We talked about this my first budget in 2018, and we wound up not going with any cars. Traditionally, you want to bring in patrol vehicles, every year. You want to bring in one or two one or two patrol vehicles in every year. You don't want, just like the hiring process, you don't want to have to hire so many in a short period of time, because the reality is that 15 to 20 years from now, you're going to have the same problem. You're going to have a lot of people retiring. Same thing with cars. Over the next few years, when you're not filling your car, replenishing your fleet, all of a sudden, you need to buy, instead of buying one or two a year, now you hit a year where now you need 4 or 5, and that can have a big budget impact. But I think we're okay this year. I think we can manage around that, and I think we'll be able to offer savings, through that as well. We were able to get savings by having DPW work on fixing our cells, which had long been an issue with work basically not having been done since, basically no upgrades since the building, was built. So being able to do that in DPW, in-house in DPW, was able to offer us big savings. The other things that we're looking at that we're always looking to upgrade is, one of them is our walkie-talkies. That's how we communicate. Officers in the field with the desk with other officers. It's probably the most important piece of equipment, that an officer has. Most of our radios are between 10 and 15 years old. They are breaking down, and we're at a situation now where Goosedown, who is our vendor that handles the radio maintenance, can't get parts for these radios anymore because they're kind of antiquated. So, we are looking to purchase new portable radios, within this budget. I do have in here that our 911, our telephone calls, our radio transmissions, all that is recorded. Basically, someone calls the police station right now. There's a program that is recording, that call, or if a police officer's talking to another police officer over the walkie-talkies, that's being recorded, or 911. It's all being recorded right now. I did have it in my budget that we may need to do a major upgrade, with that. There's a possibility that we may be able to go another year and not need that, and I'm hoping that. So, whereas that's not a if we don't need that, and it won't be a savings, at least it also, won't be, an extra cost that we did not have originally planned. I have on my list, and this is something more that goes on the wish list, as far as, the speed radar signs. We have one on Hudson Avenue. We have one on Main Street near Main and Grant, kind of right as you come into the city. Definitely speed is an issue for people coming into the city. You're driving through the entirety of Cortland based on Route 6, and, the speed limit for most of it is 40 miles an hour. You come into Peekskill, it's 2 lanes, on East Main Street there. It's very easy to just maintain that. Once you start getting into, almost, the outskirts and then the start of the downtown, that's when it's most important that people really obey the speed limit there. Having that sign, definitely see a lot of people slow down when they see that. I've spoke to a couple of council members who had mentioned to me, the desire to get more of those signs. So based on that, I've presented it in my budget. As I said, it's more of a wish than a need, but I do think that it does help, and I think people like to see it, and it's not a huge expense. So, I would ask you to consider that. And then finally on this list is the ballistic vest that police officers wear. They do, unfortunately, they have expiration dates on them. We do typically get a grant that pays for that pays for half the cost. You know, I'm hoping those grants continue. If the grant continued, you know, we're looking at it just under $6,000. Whereas if they do discontinue the grant, it's going to be closer to a $12,000 cost in you know, in replacing all those vests. So those are kind of the main, you know, the main costs, you know, that I'm looking at that are different versus for 2021 versus say 2020. And I don't know if you guys have questions on, you know, on that right now.
Thanks,
no
Chief.
questions on-
It's Kathy. I definitely will vote in favor of getting those traffic signs.
Yeah, I think they do. You know, I think it's not a huge cost, and I think they do make a difference. You know, I think people, you know, do tend to respect them. Listen, I'd love to buy 100 of them. You know,
Well,
there's
let's
a lot
not
of places
get carried
where,
away.
yeah, there's a lot of places where I'd love to see them, but you know,
Yeah,
but it's one of those
I
things.
think they do work, though. I would say that they do work.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things. You know, you like to get them piecemeal. You know, every once in a while, you know, get some more. The great thing about those signs is they don't have maintenance costs. You know, they're not like some of a lot of the other things. Even like our big speed trailer, the big trailer that has the you know, where we can use it as a message board as well. That has a maintenance cost too. So these small ones don't have a maintenance cost. So that's what's good about them.
Well, it's sort of it works. They work, I think, and I think they, you know, I see what happens. I drive over past by West Point and go through Fort Montgomery, and they have one of those signs. They have a very strict 35-mile-an-hour right through the middle of town because, you know, they have a double lane road coming down right into town. Same sort of thing as Peekskill, but Peekskill is really, you know, we have some very active people. Very, very active people who are really focusing on a walkable city. And I think certainly keeping the traffic monitored and slowed down will help in that direction.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I agree with Kathy, Chief, and thank you for as Councilman Ramon Fernandez for your service and the team that you working together, and I agree with that to maybe to have a more kind the signs like that one is going to be better help, and as a person who work and driving daily in the city, I can see how the reality that we need something like that more than that one. Even for myself, I had to say, when I see other sign, I just remind to try to be under the 30 miles when they show the 30 miles or something like that.
He's very presidential.
Right.
Yes, it is. And talking, I was good. I don't know if the question is maybe for you and or for Ann. I was watching the budget and it's divided, like you mentioned, for the animal control and for the OEN. The final budget is lower than the first one, only for the police, a little bit lower, like 10,000 something. But and the personnel include I don't know, it's the pensioner is included in the first one for the police, like for the OEN has a one director, and Amos is one of the lieutenant or something like that.
Yes, the OEM budget accounts for the salary for one of our lieutenants.
Okay, and the animal control is one of the officers also.
Is one individual, yes.
Okay.
But that's the animal control officer, not a police officer.
It is not police officer, but it's
No.
including the personnel for the first for the budget for the first one is for the police department. I mean,
Yeah, so right here that we're looking at all of the positions in the police department.
mhm,
If you wanted me to go and show you the animal control,
mhm.
just bear with me, right here. Animal
Okay.
control is just one person. Can you see that?
Yeah, I follow the another screen that I have here, but yes.
Oh, you do? Okay, and then
yeah,
the
yeah.
last one is the Office of Emergency Management. There is just one lieutenant posted to this line.
Okay.
Okay?
So, when you have at the end for that one, for the officer management,
Right.
you got a 9,024,146.
That's the total
Total
department.
expense, yes.
Yeah. Well, it's the same from the request and the recommend. But
Oh,
when
the
you
difference between the request and the recommended.
is it different?
No, there is no difference.
Oh, okay. So,
It would
but when you go back to the first page, is 9,036,89.7. That's because the cop that the chief is trying to do him or he was talking about.
No, it's this, it's the
It's in the
same number.
page, well, I don't know if it's the same page, but I think it's 176 of 224.
76, right? That's what we're looking at here on the screen.
Okay.
So the current year adopted budget, this is just for the police department,
Mhm.
not including animal control or Office of Emergency Management. The current adopted budget is $8.8 million. And the request is more than that. It's 9,036,000. And if you look, the biggest difference is,
Okay.
well, first there's a slight difference here in dental just because the premiums are going up.
Mhm.
There's a slight increase in building maintenance with work that has to be done. I'm just trying to find the big numbers for you quickly. So there is money in the capital line. So, you know, we're definitely budgeting for the vests that the chief talked about. Again, this is the total expense. There is money estimated for a grant. The portable radios, phone call recording system was discussed. And then the police department needs various equipment every year. So far, you know, we've had things break. We had to replace a vehicle that was totaled. So there is money, $50,000 for various. So that's another area where it went up. Now, if you look, the salaries, this contract for the PBA is expired. So there's no percent increase included in the numbers, but according to the salary chart, officers that are here for the first 5 years do get increases on their anniversary for the first 5 years. So those are accounted for in here. So for all of those reasons, that accounts for the increase from the adopted budget to the tentative.
And can I ask you about under revenues?
Yes.
There for the transport,
Yes.
there's like a $100,000 difference or something I saw, prisoner transport. Am I reading that right?
You are.
Chief, we're not transporting? Is that because of COVID or what?
It's more because of bail reform.
Okay.
You know, it is COVID. Some of it's COVID related. If you've seen, like, kind of, if you look at, you know, so, like when I put in the monthly report, some of the arrest numbers have really gone down. They have started to pick back up again. but certainly in that 6-month span, the numbers went way down. And then with bail reform, that has played a part as well, in that defendants that were, sent down to the Westchester County Jail and then had to be picked back up, not as many of them are sent to the jail now that a lot of them are just released without bail now.
So you're saying this year you've had no transport? Because this shows 0 actual, correct?
That's just because the money hasn't been received yet.
Okay.
Right.
And my question is, it was going because between the page 176 that doesn't include the animal control, the OEN is 9,036,000 something, but when the page 178 that's include the animal control and the OEN is 9,024,000, 24 something. So that is reduced like for 12,000, no?
Well, because right above that, if you look at the total expenses, the total expenses is the total expenses for police, emergency management, and animal control. The grand total, it takes the revenue that we were just talking about and nets it against the expenses. So that's why the grand total is lower.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just one last comment about, and maybe it's not really relative for the budget, but Chief, I just want to mention about the when you mentioned the police reform and everything. I mean, I think it's for the future about the OEN. I mean, it's a great program that we can share as community police, because it's a big job the OEN doing for people in need after any tragedy. So, and I think it's something like we need to promote it more, to let it know the community. That's from the police department, and let it know more than community. Even I hope that for the next year that we can include in our city code the comprehensive emergency management plan that we start to work. And unfortunately for the COVID, all the team, we stopped to do that. And I know we have a lot of job to do with the police reform, but it's something that I wish that we can include in the city code.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions of the council? Thanks for bringing that up too, Ann. Any other questions of the council?
No questions.
No, I just want to say, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, no questions. I just want to make comments about the request that the chief is making. I'm also in support of the signs. In fact, I think we could even get another 2. Would be useful, or something we should think about. But in terms of Lexipol and contracting out to that company, I know that I just sent a link to an article written by Mother Jones, and this company has been linked to recommending policies that have often left officers off the hook instead of keeping them more accountable. I'm just going to read really quickly a portion of the article. It's not a long portion, but I think it's important for the public to also know. Some of the company's policies depart in significant ways from recommendations by mainstream policing organization. The National Consensus Policy on Use of Force, a collaboration between 11 major law enforcement groups, requires cops to try de-escalation techniques before using force if possible. Lexipol discourages police departments from requiring them. Lexipol's policies allows officers to shoot at moving vehicles in some circumstances, a practice that the Police Executive Research Forum recommends against because it may injure or kill civilians and officers. The ACLU has contested Lexipol's rules for handling immigration violations, which in some states include a provision allowing cops to consider a lack of English proficiency when deciding whether someone may have entered the country illegally. Despite these challenges, the company has marketed its policies as a way to decrease cities' liability and police misconduct lawsuits. In its communications with potential clients, Lexipol has claimed that agencies that use its policies are sued less frequently and pay out smaller settlements, according to the Texas Law Review analysis of public records. The company's critics argue that it accomplishes this with vague or permissive rules that meet bare minimum legal requirements rather than holding officers to a higher standard. So for those reasons, and people can do more research, I think that this is something that we should, not consider and take off the table. Thank you.
Well, what I would add to that is, and that is one perspective. But when you take most police departments' policies and procedures, you know who they're written by? They're written by the chief of police. Okay, they're not, whether that's me, whether that was the chief prior to me, whether that was two chiefs prior to me. Basically, these are, many police agencies are writing policies and procedures based on what they think is the way to do it. First of all, when you bring in a company like Lexipol, you're approving what they suggest. If you want all of one particular thing, they're going to leave it in. They're going to leave in what you want. They might not recommend it, but they're leaving in what you, the individual agency, wants. However, they're going over a lot of best practices. They're going over, what the laws state. You mentioned shooting at moving vehicles. Well, in our department policy, we're not supposed to shoot at moving vehicles, but there are certain instances you can. So you just mentioned that Lexipol says that. Well, I bet most police agencies and police policies state that. I've seen their use of force policy. It is 10 times more compared to the peace skills use force or many other, or the model use of force, there's a lot more thought and a lot more information, has gone into that. But you are picking what you want for your policy. I think that, a company that does something like this, which does for a lot of police agencies, really is only going to help us. It's not going to hurt us, because we're comparing it to policies that are written by individuals that may not have all the information.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, if you're saying that some of the policies that Lexipol is recommending, we already have decided are not useful to be used, protocols, policies in policing our residents, then I think that in itself demonstrates that perhaps there might be another organization, another company that would better suit us in guiding us with new policies and protocols and getting a handbook together. Because as I'm saying, and people can do their own research, and a lot of the agencies and organizations and law review boards I named are accredited. People can look this up themselves. So I'm not making this up. I just think that Lexipol is not the direction we need to go, and I do think that we should be updating our handbook, and I don't want to put that completely just on you, Chief. I think we should be absolutely seeking out expertise and resources from organizations that can guide us, but I think that we have to be strategic in who it is we choose to invest in, and I just, given the information that I've just shared and given the information that exists, I don't think that Lexipol is that company, especially not in this moment, especially if we want to talk about increasing police accountability in our police department.
Chief, had you looked at any other companies?
You know, Lexipol is pretty much the gold standard when it comes to this. They're the ones that, you know, they're the ones that are used by the most, you know, by the most departments, and they're the ones that are used by other departments in Westchester that I've spoken to, you know, to chiefs, you know, in other agencies, you know, that use it. So, you know, it comes recommended, you know, from that. As far as
I understand that, but are there
other
companies?
ones, I'm not really sure of other ones. I just know that they're like the, you know, it's kind of like body cameras. Axon is the main body camera company that most agencies use. Are there some other ones? You know, there are. So I don't have information on other ones right now. As I said, this is the one that comes recommended to me by, you know, by other Westchester agencies. So that's what it was based on.
Where do we find the current handbook?
The department manual is at the Peekskill Police Station.
Okay. Thank you.
Chief, that handbook cannot be removed because I've come into your office and I've taken a look at the handbook, and we can't make copies of that. We can't.
Well, so here's basically it's called a policy and procedure book. Policy is different than procedure. Although they're listed together, you know, they're kind of two separate things within each, you know, whether it's use of force, whether it's talking about vehicle pursuits, whether it's talking about our uniforms. So there's different aspects. Certainly the policy aspect, can be viewed. Basically through the reform process, you know, what I have to do is, you know, take a lot of our, you know, the common policies that people are most interested in, like use of force, like dealing with emotionally disturbed people, you know, defensive tactics or the training, things like that, and definitely present the policy aspect on each one. You know, because you don't want to put your procedures out, which basically says you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do that. And then, you know, basically give that, you know, to everyone. But as far as the policies, as far as, you know, what expectations are, you know, that stuff can be released. So a lot of that stuff will have to be certainly, you know, kind of broken down within each section, and then will be kind of distributed, you know, certainly through like a reform committee, and can expand outwards after that as well.
When did you say the last time was that this was updated?
I'm sorry?
When was the last time you said it was updated? I think that was in the beginning of your report.
It's constantly updated.
Oh.
It's updated as things change. You know, you can have stuff that was changed, you know, a few weeks ago. You know, there are ones that haven't been changed since they were written. You know,
no, but I mean in terms of getting this system, that you want the system to put policy all in one place, or to change policy, or I think in the beginning of your presentation.
Yeah, well, I wanted to update policy that we're following, you know, all best practices, that you know, as the laws change, you know, we may get emails, you know, about changes in the law, and that means you may need to change, you know, a particular policy. Now, we all know, you know, everyone on this call probably gets a lot of emails every day, and there's emails people may never open and may never even realize they got. And having companies like this that are monitoring, you know, like changes in the law and changes in best practice, and offering the training aspect all to do, with it, that's stuff that they're letting you know that a policy needs to be updated before you even know about it. That's the part the important part that I'm talking about.
Let me ask something, and thank you, Vanessa, for bringing this issue. This is something about the program that the police is using, no? That company.
We don't use. I'm sure. Can you just repeat that?
Yeah, I just want to be clear that how the conversation with this company came. I mean, when you mentioned,
basically, it's come through conversations with other police chiefs that have it. That talk about how this, this basically the proverbial brings it into the 20th century. Basically, 15 years ago, somebody sat and wrote a policy for everything in the department.
Yeah, but my question is about
basically now with reform, with the reform changes and with with the importance of making sure there's changes. Listen, I've seen things in our policies. I've seen things in our policies that where I want to bring it up to somebody for a violation that I believe they've done. And I look and it's not in our policy. And it might be things that we all think is in our policy. And I go into our policy procedures and it's not there.
Sorry for interrupting, Chief. I just want to make clear because I got a little bit confused because if I am not wrong, Lexipol run programs and policy, there's something that the fire department also use or no?
I believe they had a presentation tonight.
Yeah, that was I was supposed to
perhaps
participate in that presentation tonight, but we put in
with this, yes.
Yeah. So
I don't know what. I've never spoken to Lexipol about the fire department and what they offer in fire department policies. I have no idea about that.
No. But thank you. I mean, because I feel that I missed something in the conversation. When Vanessa, you mentioned something about Lexipol in the beginning of the conversation that I want to be clear. What was the when she brought the link and all the reference? I want to go back and maybe understand the entire thing. So, and if we have that discussion, the right discussion now, or is something that we have to have
just out of
in
curiosity,
the task police reform? I mean, because it's a budget issue, or I just want to be clear with that because I am
bringing this program in as a budget issue.
So can I just intervene for a minute? There's really two things I just want to say might help clarify. Number one is that we can put money in the budget for services related to updating the policies and procedures the chief is saying are outdated, and it's something you can use an outside service for. The procurement of the specific third party can be treated as a separate question, and but the budget is something, as City Council considers the budget, it may be possible to separate those questions out. So we recognize that there's the need to invest and upgrade and make sure that best practices are in place, while continuing the conversation over, because the City Council has to approve contracts, and so it's going to be a conversation no matter what. So I just want to sort of put that on the table as a clarification. The police chief is saying two things really. One is that this is work that needs doing, and the other is that Lexipol is a valid option for pursuing it. They're really distinct questions. And I was just
And what is the line that we, I don't know if Ann can let me know, that we're talking about, the line number?
So it's the equipment line in the police budget. So it's
I'm sorry, say it again.
-200.
What is the page? So, and sorry, Ann, and sorry for
Okay,
asking that.
let me just find the page number. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm sorry me for asking.
It's okay. It's okay.
Well, just as a process, I just want to note that the contracts with outside vendors and services, they need to be approved, and so they have to be discussed separately anyway. But I think the case is being made for the need to invest.
Okay, so it's
I
on
would,
page 174.
Okay, I got it.
And it's that first line. Let me just find it. Hold on. I'm sorry.
well, Ann is finding that. I would be in agreement with Andy, with what Andy said is for budgeting it, but we need to look at, maybe other avenues or other companies.
We can
before
research
contracting
more.
with it.
Yeah, we can research more, definitely.
One of the features of the service, which I think is interesting, and I don't have a detailed knowledge of the market and how the companies differ and so on, but is the easy access to training, online training videos, and the ability to monitor police officers as they proceed through the trainings, how they do on the trainings, whether they are due for training, such like their service package comes with thousands, and that can be a useful tool in and of itself. So there's like almost every aspect of government, there's an opportunity to automate and to use data and computers to have better control over the services, and this is an example. But again, the city council will have to make a determination about the budget, which I think should be essentially blind to the particular procurement, and then go forward with the procurement process that makes the most sense based on the getting more information.
Yeah, even
mean,
Ann, if you cannot find it, you can send me
I
by
have
email
it.
later. Oh,
It's
okay,
on
thank you.
page 173. It's on the very bottom.
Can you
Oh,
speak
that's
to that?
173.
I'm not-
173. You'll see the the account. It's called equipment, and the total of that account, it continues on to page 174 on the top. But on the bottom of 173, you'll see the exact name, Lexipol.
Lexipol, I see. I
See it?
see. I
Okay,
got it.
okay.
Yeah. And when supposed to doing that payment and spend in the next year?
Well, the total money that's budgeted there is 38,700.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, it's a matter of when the paperwork is done, when the contract is approved.
Okay. So I understand very well, like Andy say, and I think yeah, we need to maybe talk more about that. I don't know if it is appropriate to maybe change the, like write the name for the company, or maybe write the for what is the spending allocated over there. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say take out Lexipol and just hold it as I wouldn't want it budgeted for that particular company.
And I think
So you can, you have,
I don't want to say
you
no
have the
now.
money.
I would like to, we can have that conversation more, spend, I mean, you know, to have a more.
You
now
have the
level.
budget line there. You have the budget line there. Let's just wait and see. But at the same time, okay, if this is a company that a lot of people are using, I mean, we can talk about it. We can look
Yeah.
into it more. But if it's considered the gold standard and there's other places that are using it, we need to look at what's going on there. If there's,
I would
and
beg to
just
differ
double
with
check.
you, Patricia, only because in the
Huh?
time that we're in, there's a lot of gold standard companies out there that still don't consider Black lives or don't consider, you know, the things that
I
are happening.
understand
So
that.
we need to look at all of this.
Yes, and we can look at all of that, but if that budget line is there and it's in the budget, then we just.
No,
need
but
to
my,
look-
my point is keep it the budget line. I mean, we don't have to, like Andy mentioned it, we talking about budget, we don't talking about the specific contract or
Right.
something like
The
that.
company.
And maybe,
Mhm.
you know, we can change the
Just
the
remove
name
the
for the
name.
company for the issue that we are gonna allocate that money over there. So don't specific the contract. I don't
Right.
know if that's correct, if we can do it that, if we haven't any.
I agree
legal
with you,
issue.
Ramon. We
Yeah,
can do that. We
so-
just need to change the title of that line.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just like you say, Patrice, I mean, we had to talking about more expanding this conversation and
Right.
outside the budget conversation.
it just also,
Correct.
to be clear, the tentative budget that's published, that what we're looking at tonight includes a level of detail and notes that aren't final and that also aren't part of the published tentative budget, which collapses some of these categories and doesn't include all the notes, just so folks know.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, Chief.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it, you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for all your work in that department, man. We really appreciate all you've been doing. Since
All
you've
right,
been
thank
on board.
you.
Yes, Chief, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Chief.
you.
Thank you.
So being that that's the
Thanks,
last.
everybody have a good night.
All right, you too, Chief. Take care of yourself. I'll be in
All right.
touch. Being
All
that
right, take care.
that's the last presentation for this evening. I'm gonna say thank you, Andy. I know you've been working with the entire staff and Ann as well. Thank you sincerely for all the work that you guys are doing. I'm gonna make a motion now to adjourn this meeting for the evening.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Thank you very much. Have a nice night, everybody.
So moved by
Second. Have a
good
Councilwoman
night.
Talbot, seconded by
Second.
Councilman Hernandez. All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
All right, have a great evening.
Good night,
Aye
everybody.
and bye.
Chief. Chief, you want to stay on a minute?